Chapter 861. At the same time. In the main hall, Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing stood in front of an old man. The old man was stooped and had white hair. He was half lying on a wooden armchair, squinting his turbid eyes as he sized up Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing. A moment later, the old man said, "I'm the deacon here. I heard that you have Divine Envoy Lu's Divine Envoy token?" Qin Feiyang nodded, took out the Divine Envoy token, and handed it to the old man. But the old man only glanced at the token before looking at the two again. "Although you have the Divine Envoy token, I can't bend the law. If you want to enter the Pill Pagoda, you have to pass the test." Qin Feiyang put away the Divine Envoy token and smiled. "That's what I should do. Let's test your mind power first. The Pill Pagoda requires people with level 5 mind power and above to enter." As the old man spoke, he took out a mind stone. Qin Feiyang stepped forward and took the mind stone. Then, he returned to his original position and closed his eyes to meditate. Bas! Soon, the mind stone trembled for the first time and emitted a faint glow. Mu Qing's eyes flashed. "Brother Qin, don't expose your true mind power." "What do you mean?" Qin Feiyang asked secretly. Mu Qing said, "We can't be too ostentatious. Once Qin Feiyang's level 20 mind power was exposed, it would definitely set off a huge storm. Because of Guaming's incident, the entire Divine City probably knows about us now." "Is there a need to do this?" Qin Feiyang said. "Of course there is a need. As long as we hide the grade of our mind power now and keep a low profile in the future, we will naturally fade out of their sight," Mu Qing said secretly. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded subtly. Mu Qing's words made sense. They had just entered the Central Divine Kingdom. If they were too ostentatious, not only would it not help them, but it would also be counterproductive. Buzz! The spirit stone continued to vibrate. On the 10th vibration, Qin Feiyang's body shook and he opened his eyes. "Level 10 spiritual power, so," the old man said lightly and looked at Mu Qing. Mu Qing took the spirit stone from Qin Feiyang and tested it. She also had level 10 spiritual power. Obviously, he was hiding something. Then, Mu Qing returned the spirit stone to the old man. The old man put away the spirit stone and nodded. "Your spiritual powers are all qualified." After saying that, the old man then pointed to the 2 stone doors behind him and said, "Those are 2 alchemy rooms with 3rd-grade alchemy fires. As long as you can fuse the alchemy fires within half an hour, you will pass the second test." "This is too simple." Mu Qing snickered. Qin Feiyang also had a smile in his eyes. If it was in the past, it would indeed be difficult for him to fuse with a 3rd-grade alchemy fire within an hour. But for the current him, it was no challenge at all. The 2 of them walked to a stone door and pushed it open. Suddenly, Mu Qing seemed to think of something and said secretly, "By the way, let me remind you to find a chance to put all the important things into the castle." After saying that, Mu Qing entered the cultivation room without looking back. "Important things?" Qin Feiyang was stunned and followed into the alchemy room with a trace of suspicion. The layout inside was quite simple, with only an alchemy table and an alchemy furnace. Not long after the 2 of them entered the alchemy room, a young man swaggered into the main hall. It was Guaming. The old man frowned and said, "What are you doing here?" The stone door was not closed. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing also noticed Guaming. "I got to know them after a fight. They came to participate in the assessment. Of course, I have to cheer for them." "Elder Wu, will I disturb you?" Guaming smiled. "As long as you don't mess around. Whatever," Elder Wu said indifferently. Then, he moved his armchair and turned around to keep an eye on Qin Feiyang and Elder Wu. "Cheer for them?" Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing both pursed their lips into a sneer, but ignored Guaming. A wisp of mental force emerged and pounced on the alchemy fire. But when fusing, they deliberately slowed down. Guaming did not say anything and quietly looked at the 2 of them. As time passed, suddenly, Guaming's eyes flashed with a cold light, and he sent a sound transmission. "Elder Wu, I have something to discuss with you." Elder Wu raised his eyebrows and asked secretly, "What is it?" Guaming said a few words in secret. After Elder Wu heard this, he secretly said, "This is not appropriate, right? If this matter is exposed and the higher-ups investigate, it will be difficult for me to shirk the responsibility." Don't worry about that. As long as you can trick them, I guarantee that they will never return. And as long as there is no evidence, even if Lu Xingfeng comes in person, he won't dare to do anything to you. Gua Ming sent a sound transmission, full of confidence. This, Elder Wu hesitated for a moment and finally said, "All right, take it as repaying the favor of your scorpion tribe." "Thank you, Elder Wu." Gua Ming secretly thanked him, then looked at Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing, and said with a smile, "I'll go prepare a celebratory banquet for the two of you. The two of you have to work hard. Don't let me prepare for nothing." With that, Gua Ming turned around and left. Sigh. Favors are all debts. After Gua Ming left, Elder Wu secretly let out a long sigh, filled with helplessness. After observing Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing for a moment, he simply closed his eyes, looking slightly haggard. Time flew by. Half an hour passed by quickly. Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing walked out of the alchemy room at almost the same time. Exactly an hour. Congratulations on passing the second round of the examination. Next is the third round. Elder Wu also opened his eyes. This third round is a bit dangerous. You have to be careful. You need to go to the mountains outside the city within 3 days and find 100 types of precious medicinal herbs. The total value of these medicinal herbs must exceed 10 million gold coins. Elder Wu said, 10 million gold coins for 100 herbs is not difficult. Qin Feiyong muttered. But before you leave, you have to give me your Qiankuan bag and image crystal. After all, young people nowadays like to play tricks. Elder Wu laughed. This, Qin Feiyong hesitated and secretly asked Mu Qing, "Is there such a rule in the main tower examination?" "Yes. Taking away the Qiankuan bag is to prevent the examinees from using the medicinal herbs in their Qiankuan bag to make up the numbers. And taking away the image crystal is also to prevent the examinees from asking for help from their relatives and friends. This is the reason why I asked you to put the important things in the castle just now. Of course, the Pill Pagoda also has a written rule that the managing elders are not allowed to privately check anyone's Qiankuan bag, let alone take a single cent." Mu Qing transmitted her voice. Qin Feiyong said, "What if we encounter danger? I heard from my second grandpa that the elder in charge of the examination will give us a jade slip. If we really encounter a life-and-death crisis, we can crush the jade slip. At that time, the managing elder will personally come to rescue us. But crushing the jade slip means that we have failed the examination." Mu Qing secretly explained. "I see." Qin Feiyong muttered. Mu Qing secretly said, "Did you put those important things in the castle?" "Yes," Qin Feiyong said. Previously, when Elder Wu had closed his eyes to recuperate, he had found an opportunity to send Song Shui, the ribs, the elixirs, and anything else that he felt was valuable to the ancient castle. Now, there were only some ordinary medicinal herbs, gold coins, and some daily necessities left in the Qiankuan bag. "That's good," Mu Qing secretly said. The two of them handed over their Qiankuan bag and image crystal one after another. After keeping their Qiankuan bag and image crystal, Elder Wu took out an empty Qiankuan bag and handed it to the two of them. "There is a teleportation gate in this Qiankuan bag. Once you find enough medicinal herbs, use this gate to teleport back. Also, on account of Divine Envoy Lu Xingfeng, I'll point you in the right direction. Go to Tornado Cloud Mountain Range. There are medicinal herbs everywhere. I estimate that you'll be able to complete the mission in less than half a day. However, there are many saint beasts in Tornado Cloud Mountain Range. You have to be careful." Elder Wu reminded and handed a jade slip to the two of them. The jade slip was the size of a baby's palm. It was pure white and there was a flame symbol on it. "Thank you, Elder." The two of them received the jade slip and cupped their fists to express their gratitude. "Good luck." Elder Wu smiled and opened a teleportation gate with a wave of his hand. Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing took a deep breath and strode in. "Don't blame me. I didn't want this to happen either." Looking at the teleportation gate that disappeared, Elder Wu muttered to himself. Although he felt guilty, there was a hint of relief in his eyes. He had finally repaid this debt of gratitude. In the sky above a mountain range, Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing appeared out of thin air. The moment they appeared, the two of them stood back to back and scanned the area below with vigilance. The mountain range was vast and boundless. Strange peaks and lofty ridges stood tall and majestic. A torrential river was like a horned dragon, winding and twisting as it extended to the end of the world. And in the mountain stream, ancient trees towered into the sky. Terrifying beasts' auras enveloped the entire area. 2 of the ferocious auras had reached the level of saint beasts. However, these 2 saint beasts' auras were still a little far from their current location, so they could not consider them for the time being. As for the nearby beasts, they were basically only at the War Master level. Some of them were even at the War Emperor level. Seeing the situation clearly, the 2 of them heaved a sigh of relief. Qin Feiyong put the white jade slip into his bosom and said, "Let's split up and look for it. If anything happens, just shout. Don't. I'm only a 5-star War Master. It's too risky to split up. Let's go together." Mu Qing hurriedly said. "Not interested." Qin Feiyong replied expressionlessly, then rushed towards the mountain stream below. "I don't care. I'm going to follow you anyway," Mu Qing said, and chased after Qin Feiyong. Yan Wei was currently in Qin Feiyong's ancient castle, so following Qin Feiyong was the best choice. Shwa! The 2 of them landed on top of a valley one after another. Qin Feiyong scanned the valley, and his brows gradually furrowed. "What's going on? Didn't Elder Wu say that this place is filled with medicinal herbs? But why can't I see a single one?" Mu Qing also frowned. "Of course you can't see it, because there are no medicinal herbs here." But before he finished speaking, a cold and stern voice sounded. Following closely, a terrifying pressure rushed out from the valley like a volcanic eruption, instantly imprisoning Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing. "Who is it?" The 2 of them shouted coldly. Whiz! Accompanied by 2 piercing sounds, an old man and a young man flew out from the valley and stood in the air opposite the 2 of them. "It's you!" Seeing the 2 of them, Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing's faces immediately darkened. Chapter 862. Qin Feiyong asked in a deep voice, "Why are you guys here?" "Guess." Guo Ming laughed in ridicule. Qin Feiyong thought for a moment, then said in shock and anger, "It's Elder Wu." "Haha," Guo Ming laughed out loud and said, "That's right, it was Elder Wu who deliberately tricked you guys here." "That's impossible. Elder Wu is the Deacon Elder of the Pill Pagoda. He would never collude with you guys." Mu Qing shook his head. "Yes. According to his original intention, it's impossible for him to help us. But there's no other way. He owes my Scorpion tribe a favor," Guo Ming said. The high priest said, Don't talk nonsense with them, quickly kill them. There's no rush. I have to make them pay for the humiliation they gave me in the Divine City. You have to restrain them well. Don't let them escape." Guo Ming laughed sinisterly, his eyes shining with a cold light. "You can rest assured about that. This old man is a war king after all. It's simply a dream for them to break free from my restraints." The high priest chuckled. "Haha. You guys didn't expect that you would fall into my hands so easily. How do you want to die? Tell me, and I'll definitely fulfill your wish." Guo Ming laughed and walked towards Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing, but his eyes were filled with hatred. Mu Qing looked at Guo Ming gloomily and cursed in his heart. "This damned Elder Wu, I thought he was a good person, but I didn't expect him to harm us." Qin Feiyong sighed. This is what it means to know what's in a person's heart. At this moment, Guo Ming landed in front of the 2 of them and grinned. "Without the image crystal, you can't ask for help. Are you in despair?" Mu Qing said in a deep voice. "You're playing with fire." "Playing with fire?" Guo Ming laughed, but his gaze turned cold as he slapped Mu Qing's face. A crisp sound of a slap rang out. A striking palm print also appeared on Mu Qing's face, and half of his face was even swollen. He was mad with hatred. The dignified young lord of the Mu Jia was slapped in public? What a great humiliation. "I'm telling you, you better release me immediately and kneel down to apologize. Otherwise, your Scorpio tribe will soon meet its end." Mu Qing enunciated each word clearly, her eyes flashing with killing intent. "Apocalypse?" Guo Ming seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. He couldn't help but raise his head and laugh wildly. The high priest's face was also filled with mockery. Mu Qing gritted her teeth and said, "Don't regret it. I'm fine. Even if we regret it, we will make you suffer a fate worse than death before we regret it." Guo Ming waved his hand, took out a dagger, and directly stabbed Mu Qing's lower abdomen. "Ah!" Mu Qing immediately let out a blood-curdling scream as her face contorted. Isn't it great? The fun part is yet to come. Guoming smiled sinisterly and stabbed Qin Feiyong's lower abdomen again. Blood splattered everywhere. But Qin Feiyong didn't even frown. He just looked at Guoming silently. Look at you guys. How dare you go against me? Do you think you're so great because you have the Oracle token? Let me tell you, brains are the only weapon to win these days. Idiots like you, I have 10,000 ways to torture you to death. After Guoming finished speaking, he stabbed their lower abdomens again. Blood gushed out. You've really pissed me off. I swear, everyone in your Scorpio tribe will die miserably because of your stupid behavior. Mu Qing's face twisted. Except for Zhuge Mingyang, he had never wanted to kill anyone like this. No. He wanted to slaughter an entire tribe. And Zhuge Mingyang was also on his must-kill list. Because his sister Mu Xueqi had died miserably in the hands of Zhuge Mingyang. You still dare to be arrogant? Guoming was stunned. Cold light flashed in his eyes. He grabbed the dagger and stabbed Mu Qing in the chest. Ah! The shattering of her heart caused Mu Qing to howl in agony. Blood spurted out like a fountain. Try again. Guoming laughed. Some blood splashed on his face, making him look particularly ferocious. Mu Qing shouted secretly, Qin Feiyong, think of a way, or we'll all die here. Even if I open the gate of potential, I can't break free from the pressure of a combat emperor. What can I do? Qin Feiyong said helplessly. Don't we still have Chong Shui and the castle? Back at the Black Dragon Glacier, they could even suppress the heart of the demon dragon and the eye of the demon dragon, let alone this emperor's aura. Ask them to come out and help us. Mu Qing said angrily. They were still hiding it. That was enough. Qin Feiyong smiled bitterly. Chong Shui and the castle did have the ability to help them, but they had to listen to his orders. Not arrogant anymore? Not angry anymore? And here I was wondering how tough your bones were. So that's all there is to it. Fine, I won't torture you. I'll let you die a quick death. Remember to keep a low profile in your next life. There are some people you can't afford to offend. Guoming laughed. Murderous intent flashed in his eyes. He suddenly raised his arm and swung it at the two's heads. The dagger in his hand flashed with a shocking light. I didn't expect to die in the hands of such a person. How sad. Mu Qing sighed deeply. But Qin Feiyong didn't give up. Because he didn't believe that Chong Shui and the castle would leave him in the lurch. Go to hell. Guoming roared. The dagger was about to pierce Qin Feiyong's head. Boom. A terrifying aura suddenly spread between heaven and earth. But it didn't come from Chong Shui or the castle. The aura was erratic, and it was impossible to pinpoint the correct direction. The high priest and Guoming were shocked. They quickly scanned their surroundings. Qin Feiyong and the other man were also bewildered. There was actually another expert hiding here. The high priest shouted, Ming, the situation has changed. Get rid of them quickly. Guoming shuddered. He quickly grabbed the dagger and slashed at Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing's necks. Boom. At the same time, an invisible force rose from somewhere in the mountain stream and rushed toward the high priest like a huge wave. Get lost. The high priest shouted angrily. He waved his hand, and a battle chi cut through the sky and collided with the invisible force. For a moment, mountains and rivers shattered, and the void distorted. Giant mountains collapsed one after another. The rumbling was like thunder, deafening. Puff! The high priest spat out a mouthful of blood. His old face quickly turned pale, and he was blasted away. The high priest was severely injured. The emperor's aura that imprisoned Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing also disappeared in an instant. The two fell down powerlessly. Damn it! Guoming was flustered and exasperated. He chased after them like lightning. Boom! But at the same time, that invisible force surged. Guoming's body trembled, and accompanied by a scream, he smashed into a giant mountain in the distance like a meteorite. With a loud bang, the giant mountain that was more than 10,000 feet tall collapsed in an instant. Huge rocks rolled down and buried him. Ming. Seeing this, the high priest's expression changed drastically. After stabilizing his body, he ignored Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing and hurriedly flew over. At the same time, That invisible force also swept up Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing and disappeared at the end of the world. Ming, how are you? A moment later. The high priest finally found Guoming. However, at this moment, Guoming's eyes were closed. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. His body was broken and dripping with blood. He can't die. The high priest was extremely anxious. He reached out and pressed on Guoming's neck. His eyes immediately lit up. There was a pulse. He was not dead. He could still be saved. He hurriedly took out a healing pill and stuffed it into Guoming's mouth. Then he picked up Guoming and looked in the direction where Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing had disappeared. He opened a portal and quickly left. At the same time, Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing let the invisible force take them forward. About a few hundred breaths later, the invisible force took the two of them and stopped at the top of a mountain. What's going on? Mu Qing half knelt on the ground, her face full of astonishment. God knows. Qin Feiyong muttered. He endured the severe pain and stood up. He glanced around and said loudly, Senior, thank you for saving our lives. However, no one answered. That invisible force also quietly retreated. Mu Qing also got up and shouted, Senior, you saved us. We must thank you properly. Please come out. But after waiting for a while, still no one responded. Has he left? Mu Qing was stunned. Qin Feiyong pondered for a while and said, Maybe he doesn't want us to know who he is? Is there such a good person in the world who does good deeds without leaving his name? Mu Qing expressed doubts. Don't make wild guesses. Even if he has ulterior motives, the fact that he saved us can't be erased. Qin Feiyong said. Mu Qing nodded. With a piercing cold light in her eyes, she said with a grim smile, The Sky Scorpion tribe must disappear. Qin Feiyong glanced at her and glanced around again. After waiting for a while and seeing no mysterious person appear, he took Mu Qing into the castle. The moment the two of them entered the castle, a golden figure appeared in the mountain stream below. This person was enveloped by a layer of golden light from head to toe. No one could see the person's face or tell whether he was a man or a woman. There was no aura on him at all. But he seemed to be integrated with the void, with an ethereal aura. If one didn't see him with their own eyes, even if he was standing behind them, they would never notice him. The mysterious person looked at the top of the mountain where Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing disappeared. She didn't say a word from beginning to end. A short while passed. She also opened a transmission door and disappeared without a trace. Inside the castle. Guoming, that bastard. If I don't kill him, Fat Lord is not a man. Yes, he must die. Looking at the shocking wound on Qin Feiyong's lower abdomen, Fatso and the others were all furious. Lu Hong glanced at Wolf King, Fatso, and the others and said angrily, Cut the crap. Go and find the Spirit Sea Elixir. It doesn't matter. I've integrated with the Fire of Life. My Sea of Qi can be repaired without the Spirit Sea Elixir. It's him. Qin Feiyong looked at Mu Qing. Mu Qing raised his eyebrows and said anxiously, I don't have a spatial divine object, so my Heart Protection Elixir and Spirit Sea Elixir are in my Chenkuan bag. Now we're in the same boat. You can't leave me to die. Do you know me well? Do you know how expensive the Spirit Sea Elixir and Heart Protection Elixir are? If you want, we can give them to you, but one elixir and one sacred weapon. Fatso said. Damn it, why don't you rob me? Mu Qing was mad. The sharp pain from his heart and Sea of Qi almost made him faint. Qin Feiyong shook his head and said, Okay, just give it to him. After all, if we want to eradicate the Scorpion tribe, the Mu family has to do it. Yes. Without the Mu family's help, with your ability, you're not enough to fill the gap between the teeth of the Scorpion tribe. Mu Qing smiled proudly. You're so cocky. Chapter 863. Mu Qing grabbed the Spirit Sea Elixir and Heart Protection Elixir and stuffed them into her mouth. She then crossed her legs and closed her eyes to recuperate. You guys continue to cultivate too. Qin Feiyong said to Fatso and the others before calming down to recuperate his Qi ocean. At the same time, main pagoda. Elder Wu sat in the main hall with his eyes closed. He seemed to be resting but his expression was anxious. Buzz. Suddenly, the image crystal in his arms buzzed and vibrated. He hurriedly took it out and channeled his battle Qi into it, causing a figure to appear. It was none other than the high priest of the Sky Scorpion tribe. At this moment, the high priest's old face was extremely dark. Seeing that, Elder Wu's heart skipped a beat. He waved his hand and the doors of the main hall closed quickly. He then looked at the high priest and asked, "Why do you look so pale? Did something happen?" "Yes. They managed to escape." The high priest nodded. "What?" Elder Wu suddenly stood up and said angrily, "Didn't we agree that as long as I deceived them, I would ensure that they would never return?" Initially, there was no problem. However, at the critical moment, a mysterious person suddenly appeared and saved them. Minger was also severely injured by that person. We don't know if he's dead or alive. The leader said that you have to find a way to get rid of them as soon as possible. The high priest said in a deep voice with undisguised killing intent. "That's impossible. I deceived them. You guys didn't have the ability to make them stay. I've already repaid the favor I owe you guys. I won't help you anymore." Elder Wu shook his head. "You won't help? You have to think carefully. They already know that you're our accomplice. When they return to the Pill Pagoda, they'll definitely expose you. When Lu Xingfeng finds out, do you think you'll be able to survive? Even if Lu Xingfeng doesn't pursue the matter, the upper echelons of the Pill Pagoda won't allow someone who harmed their disciples to continue staying in the Pill Pagoda." The high priest sneered. Elder Wu's face darkened. "Right now, we're on the same boat. If you help us, it's equivalent to helping yourself. I also promise you that as long as you can get rid of them, we won't owe each other anything from now on," the high priest said. "Let me think," Elder Wu said weakly. He turned off the image crystal and sat on the armchair, looking extremely haggard. Time flew by. An hour passed. Inside the castle, Qin Feiyang was the first to open his eyes. Not only had his qi been repaired, but his injuries had also healed. "Are you done?" He looked at Mu Qing and asked. Mu Qing opened her eyes and stood up. "It's about time." A cold light flashed in Qin Feiyang's eyes as he said, "Then let's go back." Mu Qing nodded as a strong murderous intent filled the space between his brows. "Wait." But at this moment, Lu Hong opened her beautiful eyes and looked at the two of them. "What is it?" Qin Feiyang and the other man looked at her suspiciously. Lu Hong took out the image crystal and said with a smile, "I have recorded your conversation with Guaming." "What?" Mu Qing was stunned. He looked at Lu Hong and said, "Don't tell me you also recorded the conversation that was destroyed last time? Do you have a problem with that?" Lu Hong asked. Mu Qing's mouth twitched violently. He turned to Qin Feiyang and said seriously, "I like her. Can you give her to me?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. Fatso and the others also opened their eyes and looked at Mu Qing in a daze. "Ahem." Mu Qing coughed and said awkwardly, "I think you have misunderstood. I like her attentiveness, and I happen to lack a maid. Get lost." Before Mu Qing finished speaking, Qin Feiyang and the others shouted almost at the same time. "Do you know Lu Hong's position in our hearts? Fat Lord, let me tell you, she is our little princess. How dare you say that you want her to be your maid? Are you looking for a beating?" Fatso and Wolf King said. Their fierce eyes made Mu Qing a little scared. Hearing this, Lu Hong's eyes couldn't help but heat up. She really didn't expect that she had such a high position in everyone's hearts. Little princess, what an honor. Qin Feiyang also glanced at Mu Qing and said lightly, "Watch your words in the future. Don't get beaten up without knowing the reason." Mu Qing scratched his head and laughed dryly. "Asking for a beating? I can't control the primitive force in my body. Hurry up and take him out." Wolf King waved his claws and said impatiently. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and looked at Lu Hong with a smile. "Well done. Now we don't have to be afraid of Elder Wu's sophistry." After saying that, Qin Feiyang waved his hand and left the ancient castle with Mu Qing. Then, he took out the Chenkuan bag that Elder Wu gave them and took out the only portal. Clang! Battle chi surged and the portal quickly opened. The two of them stepped in one after another. The next moment, the two of them landed in the main hall. The door of the main hall was still closed and Elder Wu was still sitting on the armchair. Sensing the aura of the two of them, Elder Wu suddenly opened his eyes and two cold rays of light burst out. "What's wrong? Do you still want to kill me?" Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing looked at each other and looked at Elder Wu with cold eyes. Boom! Before he finished speaking, a terrifying sacred force rushed toward Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing. At the same time, Elder Wu suddenly stood up, his eyes flashing with killing intent. It seems that I really want to kill you. Qin Feiyang laughed. Elder Wu didn't say anything or do anything. He just looked at the two of them. Mu Qing sneered. If you want to do it, hurry up. Otherwise, you won't have the chance. Sigh. A moment later, Elder Wu sighed helplessly and returned to the armchair. He also withdrew his sacred force. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing looked at each other, their eyes full of suspicion. What was wrong with this person? Why didn't he kill them with such a good opportunity? You can leave. As for this matter, you can tell Divine Envoy Lu or even report it to the Chief Tower Master. I won't deny it. And this has nothing to do with the Scorpion tribe. It was my idea. Elder Wu said. What's going on? The two of them looked at each other. Qin Feiyang looked at him suspiciously and suddenly asked, Elder, is there something you can't say? No. Elder Wu shook his head. Qin Feiyang said, then why did you help Guoming to harm us? Why did you have to take the blame alone? Elder Wu pondered for a while and said, now that things have come to this, is it important? In my opinion, it is indeed not important. Because I won't let go of anyone who wants to harm me. But you are different. Just now, you clearly had the chance to kill us, but instead of doing so, you took the initiative to take the blame. It can be seen that you are a kind old man. So, if you are willing to tell me the reason, maybe I will forgive you. Qin Feiyang said. Elder Wu was silent. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and said, Guoming is narrow-minded. Is it worth sacrificing yourself for him? There was a hint of anger in his tone. I know better than you what kind of person Guoming is. But I have no choice. I owe the Scorpion tribe a favor. I have to repay it. Elder Wu sighed. What favor? Qin Feiyang asked. Elder Wu fell silent again. Old man, what's wrong with you? You finally have a chance to turn over a new leaf. Why don't you know how to cherish it? Even if not for yourself, think about your family. If you die, what will happen to your family? Mu Qing said angrily. Elder Wu's gaze trembled. He looked up at Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing and finally sighed. I owe them my life. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing looked at each other and did not say anything, waiting for him to continue. Elder Wu lowered his head again, seemingly lost in his memories. A moment later, Elder Wu slowly recounted. It turned out that when Elder Wu was young, he accidentally barged into the Scorpion Mountain range in search of medicinal herbs and killed several members of the Scorpion tribe. At that time, Elder Wu was still very weak. Against the Scorpion tribe, which was full of experts, he did not have any power to resist. Elder Wu thought that he would definitely die, but he did not expect the leader of the Scorpion tribe to let him go. And the so-called favor was the favor of not killing him. So that's the case. The two of them came to a realization. That's not right. The Scorpion tribe is one of the 10 super tribes of the Central Divine Kingdom and is famous. Why would you barge into their territory and kill their people? Mu Qing frowned. To be honest, I'm actually from one of the 9 regions like you. It was the pagoda master of the 9th region who recommended me to enter the main pagoda. And I had just entered the Central Divine Kingdom and did not know that it was the Scorpion tribe's territory. Elder Wu sighed. I see. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing looked at Elder Wu with complicated expressions. Mu Qing said telepathically, should we kill him or not? Forget it. He's not a heinous person. Moreover, the real mastermind is the Scorpion tribe. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and said, all right. Mu Qing nodded and looked at Elder Wu. We won't pursue this matter and won't mention it to anyone. You really won't pursue it? Elder Wu was stunned and somewhat in disbelief. Mu Qing said again, however, you'd better not have any contact with the Scorpion tribe. Elder Wu was overjoyed. He stood up and said gratefully, thank you. Don't worry, I've already repaid my debt. I won't bother with them anymore. That's good. Return the image crystal and cosmos bags to us. Mu Qing said. All right. Elder Wu took out their cosmos bags and image crystals and returned them to them. The two checked their cosmos bags and confirmed that nothing was missing. Mu Qing smiled faintly and said, "What about our test? You must pass." Elder Wu laughed heartily and took out 2 tokens from his bosom, handing them over to the 2 of them. The tokens were the size of a baby's palm and were completely black. The front was blank and had a flame totem on it. Elder Wu said, "Engrave your names and you'll officially become disciples of the main pagoda." The 2 raised their arms at the same time and battle chi surged. They engraved their names on the front of the tokens. "Here's your clothes." Elder Wu took out 2 more cosmos bags and handed them to Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing. Then he said, "You can go to the first pagoda. As for the alchemy room, you'll have to find the disciplinary elder of the first pagoda to arrange it for you." "Thank you." The 2 cupped their fists and thanked him. Then they turned and walked toward the door. "Thank you." Elder Wu's grateful voice came from behind them. Chapter 864. Look. They're out. As soon as Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing walked out of the main hall, the disciples gathered in the distance began to discuss in low voices. "They came out so quickly. It seems that they didn't pass the test. Are you blind? Didn't you see the identity tokens in their hands? You're right. That's too fast. They haven't even been in there for 2 hours." The group of people was in disbelief. Qin Feiyong raised his head and glanced at those people. Then, he soared into the air and flew toward the 10 pill towers. He had already noticed these people who wanted to see the world in chaos before entering the main hall, but he was too lazy to pay attention to them. Mu Qing caught up with Qin Feiyong and said, "I thought about it. It's too easy to let Elder Wu go just like that." Qin Feiyong said, "Don't be so narrow-minded. Sometimes, if you're magnanimous, you might be able to get unexpected gains." "I don't see any gains." Mu Qing pursed his lips. Qin Feiyong said, "Does Elder Wu's friendship not count? I can guarantee that after this matter is over, he will definitely treat us very well." "For example?" Mu Qing said. Qin Feiyong thought for a moment and said, "For example, if the Scorpion tribe wants to deal with us again, he will definitely inform us in advance." "If they want to deal with us again? They don't have the chance anymore." Mu Qing sneered. Qin Feiyong was slightly stunned. He turned his head and looked at him in surprise. "Why are you looking at me? I have to vent my anger. Otherwise, I'll feel terrible." Mu Qing sneered. Qin Feiyong turned his head and said expressionlessly, "Up to you, but you'd better not ruin my plan." "What's your plan?" Mu Qing came to Qin Feiyong's side and asked curiously. Qin Feiyong said lightly, "Isn't my plan your plan? Snatch the heavenly star flame." "Don't give me that. You can fool others but you can't fool me. You definitely have other motives. Otherwise, why would you insist on taking the Chief Tower Master as your master?" Mu Qing chuckled. Qin Feiyong frowned. It was really a headache to get along with a smart person like Mu Qing. Suddenly, Qin Feiyong looked down at the identity token in his hand and asked, "What's with this token?" "What do you mean what happened?" Mu Qing was puzzled. Qin Feiyong asked suspiciously, "Your second grandpa's identity medallion is reddish gold. Why are our identity medallions black?" "Of course, the color of the token will be different as well," Mu Qing said. It was said that the disciples' medallions were all black. The Deacon Elder's token was white. The Law Enforcement Elder's token was red. The tokens of the 10 Tower Masters and 10 Peak Masters were purple in color. The token of the God Envoy was pure gold in color. But other than that, there was another exception in the main tower. This exception was the martial arts list and the elixir list. Only the most outstanding alchemists and martial artists could be on these 2 lists. As for the disciples on the list, the color of their tokens was also purple. In other words, the status of these disciples in the main tower was almost the same as that of the Law Enforcement Elder. "I see." After Qin Feiyong heard this, he nodded in realization. The so-called martial arts list and elixir list were actually the same as the elixir list and martial god list of the Divine Hall. "Junior brothers, please wait a moment." Suddenly, a clear voice sounded from behind the 2 of them. The 2 were slightly stunned. They stopped in the void and turned around to see a young man in white flying towards them. This person was tall and straight, with sword-like eyebrows and a faint smile on his face, giving people an inexplicable sense of familiarity. Are you calling us? Qin Feiyang asked. Yes. The young man in white nodded and smiled. He landed in front of Qin Feiyang and said, Let me introduce myself. My name is Wu Yang, a disciple of the second tower. Nice to meet you, Wu Shixiang. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing bowed politely. Junior brothers, you don't have to be so polite. May I ask, which tower did Elder Wu assign you to? Wu Yang asked with a smile. Qin Feiyang looked suspicious and said truthfully, the first tower. I see. Then I sincerely invite you two to join our second tower. Wu Yang didn't talk nonsense and directly stated his purpose. He was a straightforward person. Qin Feiyang was a little surprised. He secretly asked Mu Qing, Is there a difference between the first tower and the second tower? There is no difference between the 10 towers. It's the same no matter where you go. But it is said that the disciples of each tower are fighting openly and secretly. Mu Qing said with a voice transmission. Qin Feiyang said, Do you mean this person is here to recruit us? Definitely. After all, we have the oracle token. Mu Qing said with a chuckle. To be honest, I've already prepared an alchemy room for you two before coming. And it's the best alchemy room. This humble one is truly sincere. I hope that the two junior brothers will agree. Wu Yang glanced at the two of them. He knew that the two of them were secretly communicating, so he struck while the iron was hot and tempted them. But he didn't know. His temptation might work on other new disciples, but it wasn't attractive to Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing at all. Qin Feiyang pretended to hesitate and said, This was assigned by Elder Wu. It's not appropriate for us to go to the second tower now, is it? Since there was no difference, there was no need to go to the second tower. As for the alchemy room, it wasn't important to him at all. It was dispensable, because he had the netherworld demonic flame. However, since the other party came with sincerity, he couldn't directly refuse and embarrass him, right? Therefore he said it very tactfully. However, Wu Yang frowned. He also didn't expect the first tower to be so generous. One had to know. A 6th grade pill furnace was already comparable to a rare treasure. It was basically priceless. Even if there was, people without a family background couldn't buy it. And this first tower actually gave out 2 6th grade pill furnaces. This was much more tempting than the conditions he offered. The pill furnaces are in the pill refining room we have prepared for you. As long as you go to the first tower, they will be yours. Mo Feng continued. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, Senior brother is too polite. Elder Wu originally arranged for us to go to the first tower. Even without these we would still go. My two junior brothers indeed have good eyes. Then, follow me. Hearing Qin Feiyang say so, Mo Feng was very satisfied and turned to fly towards the pill tower. Wu Shixiang, I'm sorry. Qin Feiyang faced Wu Yang and said apologetically, then turned and flew towards Mo Feng. Wu Yang's face was very ugly. He snorted coldly and said, If you want the 6th grade pill furnaces, just say it. Why are you so hypocritical? Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows, stopped and looked at Wu Yang, and said, What did you say? From the beginning to the end, he had been very polite. It wasn't that he was afraid of trouble, but that he didn't want to cause trouble. But this Wu Yang actually said that he was hypocritical? Didn't you hear me clearly? I said that you are hypocritical. Tell me with your conscience, if the first tower didn't give you a 6th grade pill furnace, would you choose to go to the first tower? Wu Yang sneered. Well, I'll tell you with my conscience, even if your second tower gives me a divine pill, I'm not interested, understand? Qin Feiyang said. This sentence could be said to be a slap in the face. Wu Yang's face instantly darkened. Interesting. And Mo Feng also stopped and turned to look at Qin Feiyang and Wu Yang, with a smile on the corner of his mouth. This smile was very bright. Seeing Mo Feng smiling at the side, Wu Yang was even more furious. Swish. He stared at Qin Feiyang and said word by word, You will regret it. Regret? Qin Feiyang smiled and said indifferently, Don't provoke me again, or the one who will regret it will not be me, but you. After saying that, he turned to look at Mo Feng and said with a smile, Senior brother Mo, let's go. Okay. Chapter 865. Whoosh. Just as Qin Feiyang and the other two left, Another 8 young men and women landed beside Wu Yang. Looks like we're late. First Pagoda has really picked up a big bargain this time. Looking at Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing's fading figures, the 8 of them had a look of pity. Suddenly, a woman in white looked at Wu Yang and asked, "Didn't you arrive earlier than Mo Feng? Why didn't you intercept them successfully?" Wu Yang glanced at the 8 of them and didn't say anything. With a gloomy face, he rushed towards Second Pagoda. Looking at his face, he must have been defeated. I wonder what kind of tempting conditions the people of First Pagoda offered. Let's not talk about it anymore. Let's go back and report. The 8 of them discussed for a while and then went back to their respective residences. Back to Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing. Under Mo Feng's lead, the 2 of them stopped in the air above a large hall. The large hall was more than 10 meters high and had a total of 2 floors. It was dark and emitted an ancient aura. This is the law enforcement hall of our Pill Pagoda. The law enforcing elders who are in charge of our 10 Pill Pagoda live here. If you have any problems in the future, you can come here directly to find them. Of course, the disciples of First Pagoda can only find the elders who are in charge of First Pagoda. The law enforcing elder of First Pagoda is called Zhu De Yuan. He is a 9-star battle saint and is very kind to people. However, if you anger him, his temper is not ordinary. Mo Feng explained. Who doesn't have a temper? Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled, remembering this name. Immediately, he raised his head and looked around. The 10 Pill Pagoda were built around the law enforcement hall. They towered high and emitted a majestic aura. Compared to these 10 Pill Pagoda, the law enforcement hall was like a speck of dust. Previously, when looking from afar, the 10 Pill Pagoda were gathered together and close to each other. Now that he looked closer, he realized that there was a long distance between each Pill Pagoda. According to Qin Feiyang's estimation, there was at least a distance of 5 to 6 miles. Beside each Pill Pagoda, there was a stone tablet erected. The stone tablets were about 10 meters tall, and there was a number engraved on each of them. On a scale of 1 to 10. In other words, the stone tablet with the word 1 carved on it was the first tower, and the stone tablet with the word 2 was the second tower. Let's go. Mo Feng waved his hand and brought the 2 of them, flying straight towards the first tower. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang asked suspiciously, "Senior apprentice brother Mo, how did you know we were assigned to the first tower?" Mo Feng said, "Because we are paying attention to you, including the people from the other 9 pagodas." Attention? Qin Feiyang was taken aback. You guys have caused such a huge ruckus in the North City. Even the high priest of the Scorpion tribe has come. It's hard for us not to know even if we want to. After that, I heard that you had entered the examination hall. I immediately sent people to the examination hall to pay attention to your movements. After I found out that you all had passed the test, I sent a message to Elder Wu. Only then did I find out that you all had been assigned to our first tower. I also anticipated that the people from the other 9 pagodas would definitely go and intercept you all. That's why I specially came to receive you all. Mo Feng said. I see. Qin Feiyang suddenly understood. Mo Feng continued, but to be honest, before I saw you guys, I still somewhat looked down on you guys. Why? Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing were taken aback and looked at him suspiciously. Because in my opinion, you guys relied on your relationship with Divine Envoy Lu Xingfeng to successfully enter the Pill Pagoda. But just now when I saw your attitude towards Wu Yang, I realized that I had underestimated you guys. Mo Feng said. Qin Feiyang was stunned and smiled. Senior apprentice brother Mo is really a frank person. I don't like to keep my words to myself. If I have offended you in any way, please forgive me. Mo Feng said expressionlessly. Even his apology was so cold, which really made Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing feel a little helpless. Senior apprentice brother Mo is too serious. Actually, I like to associate with straightforward people like senior apprentice brother Mo. It's very relaxed, very comfortable, and there's no need to scheme. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. A faint smile finally appeared on Mo Feng's face. This also meant that he agreed with Qin Feiyang's words. However, although you are confident, you still have to be careful of Wu Yang and Wu Shan in the future. Because these 2 people are from the Qilin tribe. Also, although Wu Yang looks like a gentleman on the surface, he is actually a sinister villain. This time you have offended him, so he will definitely find a chance to take revenge. Mo Feng warned again. Qilin tribe? Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing looked at each other. Enemies really meet on a narrow road. Qin Feiyong asked, Senior Apprentice Brother Mo, are there people from the top 10 tribes in the main pagoda? Yes. And they occupy all the spots on the martial roll and elixir roll. The king of our pagoda, Senior Apprentice Brother Pei Yi, is from the Divine Python tribe. Mo Feng said. Qin Feiyong nodded. Mu Qing asked, what about the Sky Scorpion tribe? There are many people in the Sky Scorpion tribe, but only 2 people are the most famous. One is Gua Yun, and the other is Gua Feng. Gua Yun is the king of the 3rd pagoda of the Pill Pagoda, and Gua Feng is the king of the 3rd peak of the Warrior Mountain Range. Both of them have reached the peak of the 9-star Battlemaster and are only half a step away from the Battle Saint realm. And the reason why Gua Ming dares to be so arrogant is because he has the support of these 2 people. I know because of Gua Ming, you will definitely target the people of the Sky Scorpion tribe. But I have to advise you it's best not to go. Although you have the Divine Envoy token, it's too easy for them to plot against you. And as long as you stay in the pagoda and don't cause trouble, Senior Apprentice Brother Pei Yi will always be your backer. Mo Feng warned. Plot. Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing sneered inwardly. Since you are so good at plotting against others, let's see who can out-scheme who. But on the surface, both of them nodded in agreement. After all, Mo Feng had good intentions. While talking, the 3 of them landed in front of the pagoda. The tall pagoda door was closed, and there were no disciples wandering around nearby. The disciples of our main pagoda are basically cultivating when they have nothing to do. Very few of them are wandering outside. And the key to open the pagoda door is our identity token. Mo Feng took out his identity token and poured his battle chi into it. A black light swept out and merged into the pagoda door. Boom! Immediately, the pagoda door opened quickly, and a wide corridor appeared in front of the 2 of them. On both sides of the corridor, there was a stone door every 3 meters. Behind the stone door was the alchemy room. Follow me. Mo Feng turned into a stream of light and rushed into the depths of the corridor. Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing followed closely behind. After the 3 of them left, the pagoda door closed automatically. A moment later, the 3 of them came to the center of the stone pagoda. In the center was a circular patio. Standing in the patio tribe, they could clearly see the top of the stone pagoda. Whoosh! Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing followed Mo Feng and flew directly to the top floor. Subsequently, Mo Feng led the 2 of them to the space between the 2 stone doors and said, These 2 alchemy rooms are specially prepared for you. Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing raised their heads to look. On the stone door, there was a number, namely 10 and 9. The 2 of them were quite surprised. They actually arranged such a front alchemy room for them? The Divine Envoy's token was really useful. I'm in the 3rd alchemy room. If there's anything you don't understand, feel free to look for me. In addition, we also have people from the Scorpion tribe in the 1st pagoda. Be careful. Mo Feng reminded them and turned to the other side. But he didn't go back to the 3rd alchemy room, but to the 1st alchemy room. The owner of the 1st alchemy room should be the king of the 1st pagoda, Pei Yi. Mu Qing muttered. Why? Want to snatch it? Qin Feiyong asked with a smile. TCH. Mu Qing's eyes were full of disdain. This time, he entered the main pagoda to snatch the Tiangang flame. The alchemy room was not important at all. He glanced at the 9th and 10th alchemy rooms and asked, Which one do you want? Whatever. Qin Feiyong shrugged his shoulders. Hearing that, Mu Qing directly walked into the 9th alchemy room. Qin Feiyong turned his head to look at Mo Feng. His eyes flashed and he also followed into the 10th alchemy room. This alchemy room was very large. It was estimated to be more than 100 feet. There was a separate lounge, an alchemy room, and a cultivation room. And it was very clean and tidy. Qin Feiyong looked around and entered the alchemy room. On the alchemy table, there was indeed an alchemy furnace made of green copper. A lifelike fire phoenix was engraved on the wall, emitting a dazzling light. He walked to the front of the alchemy furnace and curiously looked at it for a while. Then he cut his finger and dripped blood to bind it. At that moment, a piece of information flowed into his mind. 6th grade alchemy furnace. Fire Phoenix furnace. Not bad. Looking at the Fire Phoenix furnace, Qin Feiyong's face was full of smiles. No matter what the other party's reason was, he would accept this alchemy furnace. And last time in Tianxian City, when he snatched the Tianxian flame, he also took Wu Yong's alchemy furnace. That alchemy furnace was called the Scorching Sun Furnace, which was also a 6th-grade alchemy furnace. Now, with this Fire Phoenix furnace, he had 2 6th-grade alchemy furnaces. Even if the furnace accidentally exploded in the future, he didn't have to worry about the alchemy furnace. Then, he pressed a button next to him, and a burst of alchemy fire suddenly surged out from the center of the alchemy table. The temperature of the alchemy room also rose rapidly. And, looking at the alchemy fire, Qin Feiyong's face had a trace of surprise. This alchemy fire was actually white, like bone fire. The most important thing was that the aura it emitted was actually stronger than the Netherworld Devil Flame. Could it be a 7th-grade alchemy fire? Thinking of this, he hurriedly mobilized his mental force and rushed towards the alchemy fire. At the same time, Alchemy Room Number 1. This alchemy room was twice as big as Qin Feiyong's alchemy room. Inside the lounge, a purple-clothed youth was leaning against a chair. This person was as divine as jade, with an otherworldly temperament. His eyes were like 2 bright moons, emitting a mysterious color. At this moment, Mo Feng stood in front of this person, his expression full of respect, and said, "I have already arranged for them." The purple-clothed youth nodded with a smile and asked, "What do you think of them?" Mo Feng thought for a moment, then said, "A bit mysterious, I can't see through it." "What about cultivation?" The purple-clothed youth asked again. Mo Feng said, "One is an 8-star war sect, the other is a 5-star war sect." "Not bad." The purple-clothed youth nodded and laughed. "After all, they are Divine Envoy Willow's people. Take care of them in the future." "All right." Mo Feng nodded, muttered to himself for a moment, and then said, "I don't understand, even if they are related to Divine Envoy Willow, there is no need to give them a 6th-grade pill furnace. Your eyes are still not good enough. Do you really think that I'm doing this because of Divine Envoy Willow?" Chapter 866. Mo Feng paused and asked, "Isn't that the case? Divine Representative Lu is definitely part of the reason, but the main reason is because of what they said to Fu Anshan and the Sky Scorpion tribe's high priest when they left the Northern City Exchange Pavilion." The purple-clothed youth said. "What did they say?" Mo Feng was suspicious. They said that Fu Anshan and the Sky Scorpion tribe's high priest would soon find them and kneel down. Think about it, why would they dare to say such a thing? The purple-clothed youth said. This. Mo Feng scratched his head and couldn't figure it out. Although these people had Lu Xingfeng's support, Fu Anshan and the Sky Scorpion tribe's high priest weren't ordinary people either. Logically speaking, these people shouldn't be so arrogant in front of Fu Anshan and the high priest. The purple-clothed youth suddenly raised his hand and pointed his index finger. There's only one explanation for them to say such a thing. What? Mo Feng was surprised. Apart from Lu Xingfeng, there's also a huge force behind them, and this force isn't any weaker than the Sky Scorpion tribe and the Exchange Pavilion. The purple-clothed youth smiled. Mo Feng's expression froze, and he hurriedly said, "That's impossible. There's nothing impossible in this world. Moreover, didn't you say that these 2 people are very mysterious and can't be seen through? Moreover, if they're just ordinary people, how could they know Lu Xingfeng? You have to know that Lu Xingfeng is from the Central Divine Kingdom, and they claim to be from the 9 regions. Most importantly, the Divine Representative Token has an extraordinary deterrent effect on the Forgotten Continent. The Divine Messengers wouldn't easily give it to others, so why would Lu Xingfeng give it to them?" The purple-clothed youth smiled faintly. "What you mean is that the 2 of them are most likely people from some super tribe, and the current them are just fake faces after changing their appearances," Mo Feng said in shock. The purple-clothed youth smiled. "This is only my guess. I still need to investigate whether it's true or not." Mo Feng said. "Then I'll go investigate." "It's better if you don't go. After all, it's easy to offend people, so let nature take its course. I'm also looking forward to seeing how they make Fu Anshan and the high priest kneel down and beg them." The purple-clothed youth smiled faintly. "I understand." Mo Feng nodded, a strange light flashing in his eyes. "Ancestor Mu, Qin Day, come out quickly." But suddenly, an old voice could be heard coming from outside. Mo Feng and the purple-clothed youth were stunned. The purple-robed youth said. It sounds like Elder Wu's voice. Go out and take a look. All right. Mo Feng turned around and quickly walked out of the pill refining room. Standing in front of the railing of the corridor, he looked down and indeed, he saw Elder Wu at the bottom of the courtyard. What's the situation? A trace of suspicion crept into his eyes as he asked. Elder Wu, is something the matter? Elder Wu nodded and asked, which pill refining room is Ancestor Mu and the rest in? Mo Feng replied honestly, pill refining rooms 9 and 10. I'll call them out immediately. Don't bother, I'll go find them myself. Elder Wu chuckled and with a leap, he landed in front of pill refinement room 9. Without waiting for him to knock, the stone doors of pill refining rooms number 9 and number 10 opened automatically. Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing walked out one after another. Elder, you've missed us so quickly? Mu Qing teased. Elder Wu rolled his eyes at him and said in a low voice, let's talk inside. With that, he took the lead and entered Mu Qing's pill refining room. Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing exchanged glances. With a trace of suspicion, they followed in and closed the stone door tightly. At the same time, apart from Mo Feng, the other disciples also walked out of the pill refining rooms one after another and raised their heads to look at pill refining room 9 suspiciously. Some of them even had a hint of viciousness in their eyes. Without a doubt, these people were definitely from the Scorpion tribe. In the pill refining room, Elder Wu looked at Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing with a serious expression. Qin Feiyong's heart skipped a beat. Elder, what's the matter? Elder Wu said, the high priest of the Scorpion tribe sent me another message just now. He's not done, is he? Mu Qing raised his eyebrows, looking extremely vicious. Calm down. Qin Feiyong glared at him and looked at Elder Wu. What did he say? He said that if I don't cooperate with them, they'll attack my family. I really don't know what to do now. Can you help me? Elder Wu looked at the two of them pleadingly. Mu Qing said, this is easy to solve. You can go directly to the Chief Tower Master and ask him to seek justice for you. Are you an idiot? If Elder Wu goes to the Chief Tower Master and explains everything, won't the Chief Tower Master know that Elder Wu set us up? Do you think the Chief Tower Master will let off someone who set his disciples up so easily? Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes. Couldn't he use his brain when speaking? He asked for it. Mu Qing pursed his lips. Hearing that, Elder Wu looked rather embarrassed. Enough. It's already in the past. Don't harp on it. The most important thing now is to find a way to get rid of the malignant tumor that is the Scorpion tribe. Qin Feiyong said. Mu Qing glanced at Elder Wu, lowered his head, and pondered for a while. Then he waved his hand and said, don't worry, your family will be fine. Go back. Elder Wu was surprised. Mu Qing said, don't ask anything. Thank you. Elder Wu took a deep look at Mu Qing and bowed. He then turned around and left. Mu Qing followed and closed the stone door. His face immediately turned cold and he said, I haven't gone to settle the score with them yet, and they're thinking of ways to deal with us. These people are really stubborn. What's your plan? Qin Feiyong asked. Do we need a plan to deal with them? Mu Qing smiled disdainfully. He took out an image crystal and his battle chi surged. Bas. After a few breaths, an old figure appeared. It was an old man in purple. His face was ruddy and full of energy. His aura was like a vast ocean, unfathomable. Mu Qing bowed and said, Greetings, second forefather. Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows but did not say anything. Mu Clan's second forefather naturally saw Qin Feiyong and asked, Is everything going well? Mu Qing shook his head and said, No, we were almost killed. His face was full of grievance. Who has the guts? Mu Clan's second forefather frowned. The anger on his old face was clearly visible. The Sky Scorpion tribe. Mu Qing immediately told him what happened today in detail. And he even added some details. Outrageous, the Sky Scorpion tribe is simply courting death. Unsurprisingly, after listening to Mu Qing's story, Mu Clan's second forefather flew into a rage. Mu Qing had activated the Heavenly Eye Battle Soul. Everyone in the Mu Clan, including the great forefather and second forefather, had high hopes for him. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that Mu Qing was the little emperor of the Mu Clan. He could call for wind and rain. Just like last time, Qin Feiyang stole the heavenly thundersword from Mu Qing's hands and lost 3 battle saints. If it were someone else, they would have died long ago after making such a big mistake. But after Mu Qing went back, he was only scolded a few words and left unsettled. One could imagine how much the Mu clan doted on Mu Qing. And this time, the Sky Scorpion tribe actually plotted against Mu Qing and almost killed him. This was tantamount to touching the Mu clan's reverse scale. Mu clan's second forefather said, "Tell me, how do you want to deal with the Sky Scorpion tribe?" There was a bone-piercing chill in his voice. Mu Qing said without hesitation, "I want them to disappear." This, Mu clan's second forefather was shocked. He never thought that Mu Qing would want to eradicate the entire Sky Scorpion tribe. Pondering for a moment, Mu clan's second forefather said, "Qing, this matter needs to be discussed at length." "Why? Isn't it just a Sky Scorpion tribe? What does it matter if we get rid of it?" Mu Qing frowned. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but roll his eyes when he heard this. One must know. The Sky Scorpion tribe was a real super tribe, standing at the top of the pyramid of the Forgotten Continent. In the entire tribe, who knows how many battle saints and battle emperors there were. But this guy actually said that it wasn't just a Sky Scorpion tribe? What could be more contemptuous than this sentence? Perhaps in this vast continent, only this bastard dared to say such arrogant words. The Sky Scorpion tribe is indeed nothing, but now is a critical period. If we make a move on the Sky Scorpion tribe now, I'm afraid it will cause unnecessary trouble. Just bear with it for now. When we get the heavenly flames, I promise you that I will immediately destroy the Sky Scorpion tribe. Mu clan's second forefather said with a tone of flattery. "Forefather, you worry too much. As long as we do it cleanly, who will know that it was our Mu clan who did it?" Mu Qing said. This, Mu clan's second forefather frowned. "Hey, forefather, don't say that I'm threatening you. If we don't get rid of the Sky Scorpion tribe now, Qin Feiyang and I will feel uncomfortable in our hearts. If we feel uncomfortable, then we won't be so enthusiastic about snatching the heavenly flames." Mu Qing said slowly, with a smirk on his face. "Isn't this a threat?" Mu clan's second forefather's face darkened. Hee. Mu Qing laughed again and again. At this time, Qin Feiyang, who had been silent, opened his mouth and said, "In fact, we don't have to worry, we can completely shift the blame to others." Mu clan's second forefather and Mu Qing looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. That mysterious lady. Doesn't she always like to frame others? This time we also let her take the blame. Qin Feiyang said. "Good idea." Mu Qing's eyes lit up and he nodded repeatedly. Mu clan's second forefather pondered for a while and nodded in agreement. "Speaking of her, this old man wants to ask you, do you know her origin?" Qin Feiyang shook his head. "That's strange. She framed you and helped you at the same time. What is she doing?" Mu clan's second forefather frowned. This question had puzzled him for a long time. "I don't know either. In short, this woman is unpredictable," Qin Feiyang said. "Okay. This old man will discuss with the forefather later. If he agrees, I will take you to wash the Sky Scorpion tribe with blood." Mu clan's second forefather nodded. "Hurry up," Mu Qing urged. "Haste won't get you anywhere." Mu clan's second forefather rolled his eyes at him, and the shadow quickly disappeared. "How about it? It's not a loss to cooperate with my Mu clan." After Mu Qing put away the image crystal, he turned and looked at Qin Feiyang proudly. "Show off." Chapter 867. Do you really want to frame her? As soon as Fatso came out, he asked. "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. Although over the years, they also got a lot of benefits from the hands of the mysterious lady. But the mysterious lady also accounted for a large part of the reason why he fell to this point today. So, he had to let this woman have a taste of what it was like to be framed. Indeed, she should also suffer. Fatso nodded and then smirked. When she receives the news, she will definitely be mad. Not necessarily. In this woman's eyes, maybe like the Mu family, the Scorpion tribe is just a small robe. Forget it. There is nothing to talk about. You go to the East City Trading Pavilion now and give the list of medicinal materials to Li He. Qin Feiyang said. Just to buy the medicinal materials of the 9-turn dragon blood pill and small creation pill? Fatso asked. Potential pill. 9-turn yellow dragon pills medicinal materials are also bought. These pills, although useless to us, are undoubtedly the treasures of heaven and earth for others. Qin Feiyong smiled. I understand. Fatso nodded. In addition, when making the list, you have to mix up the medicinal materials of these pills, so as not to be seen by Li He. Qin Feiyong warned. Do I need you to say this? Fatso rolled his eyes at him, opened a portal and left. Qin Feiyong entered the alchemy room. His spiritual force emerged and continued to fuse with the alchemy fire. Time passed by little. Half an hour later, his spiritual force had not fused with the alchemy fire. After being burned by the alchemy fire for half an hour, his spiritual force was already very tired. However, the excitement on his face was hard to hide. Because this meant that the alchemy fire here must be a 7th grade alchemy fire. Using the 7th grade alchemy fire to refine the small creation pill and the 9-turn dragon blood pill, he could refine 6 alchemy patterns. 6 alchemy patterns meant a 60% success rate. This was a big surprise for him. Another half an hour passed, and his spiritual force finally fused with the alchemy fire. A piece of information flowed into his mind. 7th grade alchemy fire, white bone flame. However, after the pleasant surprise, Qin Feiyong frowned again. Just fusing the alchemy fire had consumed more than half of his mental energy. Wouldn't that be soon? At this rate, he reckoned that he wouldn't be able to refine many pills before his spiritual power was exhausted. Looks like my level 20 spiritual power is about to reach the bottleneck. Qin Feiyong mumbled. The duration of refining pills was closely related to the strength of one's mental strength. With his level 20 spiritual power, he could refine continuously for 10 days without stopping. If it was a level 10 spiritual power, he would only be able to continuously refine for 5 days before his spiritual power would be exhausted. In short, the stronger one's mental strength was, the longer it would take to refine pills. Of course, this was also related to the grade of the medicinal pill. The lower the grade of the pill, the less mental energy it required. On the contrary, the higher the grade, the more mental power one would need to consume during the refining process. In short, now, he had to think of a way to increase the strength of his mental strength. However, he had never heard of anything that could increase the strength of one's mental strength. My head hurts. Qin Feiyong rubbed his forehead and temporarily suppressed this thought. He sat cross-legged and recovered his mental strength. After his mental strength recovered, he took out dozens of medicinal herbs for the healing pill, concentrated for a moment, and began to refine pills. He had just fused with the white bone flame and knew nothing about it. As such, he didn't dare to refine the small creation pill and the 9 transformation dragon blood pill directly. After all, the medicinal herbs for these 2 pills were extremely precious. If they were accidentally ruined, his heart would bleed. Therefore, he first used the healing pill to familiarize himself with the white bone flame. Anyway, the healing pill was not worth much. It didn't matter how many were ruined. True enough, the level 7 alchemy fire was extremely difficult to control. The medicinal herbs for the healing pill were ruined one by one. It wasn't until Qin Feiyong's 10th attempt that he successfully refined a healing pill. It didn't disappoint and 6 alchemy veins appeared. Immediately, he continued to refine pills. An hour passed. Qin Feiyong felt that he could already control the white bone flame. Therefore, he took out some medicinal herbs for the Qi gathering pill, battle Qi pill, potential pill, and potential pill. In short, he had to refine all the pills that he had refined before. By doing so, he could have a deeper understanding of the white bone flame. Naturally, he could also train to have a more precise control of the white bone flame. This was the so-called practice makes perfect. Another half an hour passed. Qin Feiyong's body suddenly shook violently and fell to the ground. This was caused by excessive consumption of mental strength. He supported himself on the alchemy table with one hand and rubbed his head with the other. His face was full of disbelief. With his level 20 mental strength, he could only refine continuously for 2 hours? This was far beyond his expectations. Wasn't this consumption too terrifying? Swish! At this moment, Fatso appeared out of thin air in the alchemy room. Seeing Qin Feiyong's situation, he hurriedly went up to support Qin Feiyong and said in shock, "What's going on? Why are you so weak?" Qin Feiyong sat cross-legged on the ground and explained briefly. Grade 7 pill fire? Fatso looked at the white bone flame in surprise. Qin Feiyong asked, how's the purchase of medicinal herbs? Mentioning this matter, Fatso's face sank slightly. What's wrong? Qin Feiyong frowned. Fatso said, the medicinal herbs trading pavilion has all these, but not much. Not much. Qin Feiyong was stunned. Fatso said, to be exact, it's very little. That's impossible. No one in the Forgotten Continent knows how to refine these pills. How can there be no medicinal herbs? Qin Feiyong was surprised. That's the main point. I've asked Li he said that every once in a while, someone will go and purchase these medicinal herbs. And it's a large purchase. Fatso said in a deep voice. What? Qin Feiyong suddenly stood up, his face full of shock. Why would someone purchase these medicinal herbs? Could it be that there are also people in the Forgotten Continent who have the pill formulas of these pills? But how is this possible? Boss Fat Lord, I have to remind you that you're not the only one who knows the pill formulas of these pills. Fatso said. And Qin Feiyong looked at Fatso in surprise. Fatso said in a low voice. Have you forgotten? The pill scripture that we obtained was left behind by Mu Tianyang. Boom. As soon as these words came out, Qin Feiyong was like a bolt from the blue, his body and mind trembling. That's right. The pill scripture was left behind by Mu Tianyang. Mu Tianyang naturally knew about it. Fat Lord has a bold guess. There should be a descendant of Mu Tianyang hiding in the Central Divine Kingdom. Otherwise, why would he purchase these medicinal herbs? Moreover, he doesn't want the medicinal herbs of other pills. Why would he only purchase the medicinal herbs of these few pills? Fatso said. Could it be that this Mu family is really related to Mu Tianyang? Qin Feiyong muttered to himself. Because the Mu family was the most suspicious. First, they were ridiculously strong. Second, they were not native to the Forgotten Continent. Third, Mu Qing entered the 9th level of hell to find Lu Xingchen. And this was also the biggest suspicious point. Because, to go to the 9th level of hell, one must first know the coordinates of the 9th level of hell. And how did the Mu family know the coordinates of the 9th level of hell? Qin Feiyong felt that the layers of fog in his heart were gradually dispersing. He waved his hand and took Yan Wei out of the castle. Qin Feiyong looked at the two and said in a deep voice, from now on, don't do anything. Just focus on investigating the person who purchased the medicinal herbs. The two nodded. Fatso thought for a moment and asked, if the Mu family is really Mu Tianyang's descendant, how do you plan to deal with them? Back then, the ancestors of the Great Qin Empire destroyed the Tianyang Empire. Mu Tianyang will definitely not let it go. And if the Mu family is really Mu Tianyang's descendant, they will definitely make a comeback. Although the current emperor has wronged me, the blood of the Qin clan still flows in my body. I can settle the score with the current emperor, but I will not allow anyone to shake the Great Qin Empire. Qin Feiyong said. Every word was powerful and resolute. Fatso and the other two looked at each other. At this moment, Qin Feiyong exuded an amazing aura, like the return of a king, making people feel fear from the bottom of their hearts. Perhaps, this was Qin Feiyong's original temperament. Fatso nodded and said, I understand, we will go now. Wait. With your current strength, you can't control the overall situation. Wait for me to refine the 9 transformation dragon blood pill to strengthen Yan Wei's strength. Then you can go. Qin Feiyong said and closed his eyes to recover his mental strength. Yan Wei was stunned and turned to look at Fatso. He asked secretly, what is the 9 transformation dragon blood pill? It's a kind of pill that can improve your strength by leaps and bounds. You are in luck. Fatso laughed secretly. Yan Wei's eyes lit up and couldn't help but look forward to it. If it was in the past, he would definitely not believe it. But now, with his deeper understanding, he knew that this was a group of people who could create miracles. There were way too many shining points in them. Anything that was impossible could become possible. Time passed quickly. Night was about to fall. Qin Feiyong finally opened his eyes and the fatigue on his face was gone. Fatso ran to the elixir refinement platform excitedly and took out the herbs for the 9 transformation dragon blood pill. Qin Feiyong stood up and scanned them one by one, frowning. Where's the dragon blood? I'm looking for it. Fatso rummaged through his universe bag and mumbled. What's going on? Why can't I find it? Qin Feiyong raised his brow. Can't find it? What a joke. Dragon blood was the most important herb for the 9 transformation dragon blood pill. How could he refine it if he couldn't find it? I really can't find it. Fatso frowned and looked at Qin Feiyong, asking, Is it with you? Aren't you the one taking care of all these precious herbs? Qin Feiyong said angrily. That's right, but I don't have it with me. Could it have been stolen by a thief? Fatso frowned and was extremely anxious. Thief? Qin Feiyong's mouth twitched. If it was really stolen by a thief, he would have stolen Fatso's universe bag as well. How could he have only stolen the dragon blood? Qin Feiyong said, Think about it carefully. Is there anywhere else? This. Chapter 868. Hurry up, Qin Feiyong urged. In this era, dragon's blood was very rare. Even if you had power and influence, you wouldn't be able to get it. And those 10 drops of dragon's blood were exchanged from Sun to Hai with great difficulty. How could he lose such an important thing? This bastard was getting more and more unreliable. I can't remember. A moment later, Fatso looked at Qin Feiyong timidly and shook his head. Qin Feiyong was about to fly into a rage, but suddenly, he noticed that there was a hint of mockery in Fatso's eyes. Are you playing with me? Qin Feiyong was stunned and said with a sullen face, Give me the Chenkuan bag, I'll look for it. I really don't have it. Fatso panicked and hurriedly said, Give it to me. Qin Feiyong's eyes became colder and colder, and his tone was inviolable. Fatso said aggrievedly, Why don't you believe Fat Lord? When has Fat Lord ever lied to you? Still pretending? Are you asking for a beating? Qin Feiyong's face darkened, and he slapped Fatso's head and said angrily, Hurry up and take it out. Fatso shrunk his neck and said with an embarrassed smile, You found out. Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself in the mirror? Are you cut out to be an actor? Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes. But in his heart, he approved of Fatso's acting skills very much. Because at the beginning, he was really scared. Because later, when Fatso saw that he believed him, he was a little complacent and revealed a flaw. Otherwise, he would still be in the dark. After being exposed by Qin Feiyong, Fatso looked quite embarrassed and obediently took out a jade bottle. The jade bottle was very small, about the size of a little finger, and half filled with blood. If you do this again, don't blame me for being impolite. Qin Feiyong snatched the jade bottle and fiercely glared at Fatso. Then, he took out a drop of dragon blood and returned the jade bottle to Fatso. Then, he walked to the front of the pill furnace. It's just a joke. Seriously. Fatso mumbled, looking very wronged. When Yanwei heard this, he couldn't help but shake his head. He then turned to look at Qin Feiyong's back, his face full of anticipation. As for Qin Feiyong, he stood in front of the pill furnace. He didn't immediately open the furnace to refine the pills. Instead, he closed his eyes and calmed himself. Because it was his first time refining the 9 Revolution Dragon Blood Pill, he could not be careless. However, he wasn't too worried about it. According to the pill scripture, the difficulty of refining the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Pill and the Minor Creation Pill was about the same. With the experience of refining the Small Creation Pill, as long as he was careful when refining the 9 Revolution Dragon Blood Pill, he should be able to succeed on his first try. Whoosh! Several hundred breaths passed. Qin Feiyong finally opened his eyes. His entire body and mind had already entered the heart-like still water state. Whoosh! Mental strength also emerged from the top of his head and rushed towards the white bone flame. While Qin Feiyong was refining the 9 Revolution Dragon Blood Pill, in the first alchemy room of the second pagoda, a young man in black stood in the alchemy room, concentrating on refining the pills. This person was about 1.8 meters tall and was as straight as a pine tree. His black hair was like a waterfall, and his facial features were as sharp as knives. His entire body exuded a fierce aura. In the lounge of the alchemy room, a young man in white was pacing back and forth with an extremely gloomy face. It was Wu Yang. The more I think about it, the angrier I get. I've already given them enough face by personally inviting them. How dare they reject me? Brother Sean, if I don't vent my disgust, I will continue to feel uncomfortable. Wu Yang walked to the door of the alchemy room and looked at the young man in black. Elder Wu originally arranged for them to go to the first pagoda. They did nothing wrong. What's there to be angry about? The young man in black smiled faintly as he refined the pills. However, his eyes were shining with a fierce light. But by doing this, aren't they looking down on us? Wu Yang said angrily. They don't even care about Fu Anshan and the high priest of the Scorpio tribe, let alone us. All right, be quiet. Don't disturb me when I'm refining pills. The young man in black said. Wu Yang frowned and walked to the young man in black. He looked at the spiritual liquid floating in the furnace and asked suspiciously, "What kind of pill are you refining?" "You'll know later." The young man in black smiled mysteriously. A moment later, a dazzling pill flew out of the furnace. The young man in black reached out and grabbed it. What? Wu Yang was extremely curious. The young man in black opened his palm. This. Wu Yang looked at the pill in horror. The pill had 3 veins and was blood red as if it was cast from flesh and blood. It also emitted an extremely strong smell of blood. It's okay. The young man in black smiled. Wu Yang swallowed his saliva and said with difficulty, "Brother Shan, aren't you afraid that the law enforcement elder will know that you're refining this pill?" The young man in black smiled faintly and said, "If you don't say it, I won't say it. Who will know?" But the main tower has a rule that forbids refining this kind of pill. If someone finds out, it won't be as simple as being expelled from the pill pagoda. I'm afraid it will implicate our entire Qilin tribe. Wu Yang was worried. Don't worry. I'm doing it secretly. No one will know. The young man in black smiled confidently and threw the pill into his mouth. A shocking scene appeared. After the young man in black took the pill, the aura emitted from his body became stronger. Although it wasn't obvious, it did exist. Did you see that? This is simply a divine pill. As long as I continue to take it, it won't be long before I can step into the Battle Saint realm. As he spoke, the young man in black couldn't help but clench his fists. His eyes were filled with desire. Brother Shan, this pill is indeed good. It can make your strength increase by leaps and bounds, but it's really too dangerous. You must think twice. Wu Yang was extremely anxious and tried his best to persuade him. Why are you so indecisive? Let me tell you, I'm not the only one who wants to take this pill. You have to take it too. The young man in black said in a deep voice. This pill is refined from human flesh and blood. If you want me to take it, I can't do it. Wu Yang's face paled as he shook his head. Trash. Don't you understand the principle of the strong preying on the weak? If you want to become stronger, you have to do whatever it takes. Moreover, I'm doing this for your own good. Once I break through to the Battle Saint realm and enter the sacred grounds, the position of king will be empty. And now, there are thousands of people in our second tower's 9-star war sect. They have always coveted this position of king. And you are only an 8-star war sect. If you don't take another shortcut, you won't be able to break through to the 9-star war sect before I leave. Think about it, with your 8-star war sect cultivation, how can you compete with them for the position of king? The young man in black said. This. Wu Yang hesitated. Brother, although we are not blood brothers, we are all from the Qilin tribe. You have to be clear that I have no ill intentions towards you. You should also know that each of our 10 great tribes has 2 kings in the main tower. If you don't become the king of the second tower after I leave, then this balance will be broken. At that time, the disciples of our Qilin tribe will definitely be suppressed by the people of the other tribes. Therefore, the position of king of the second tower must be someone from my Qilin tribe. Do you understand? The young man in black said with a deep meaning. Wu Yang frowned and asked, Then when did you start to refine this kind of medicinal pill? 3 years ago. The young man in black said. It's been so long? Wu Yang was shocked. The young man in black laughed. No one has discovered me for 3 whole years. Am I doing it secretly? Yes. Wu Yang nodded and asked again. Then where do you usually go to look for prey? I definitely can't be in the Divine City, much less in the main tower. I always go outside the city to look for prey. Just keep your heart in your stomach. There are countless people in our central divine kingdom. There are people dying every day. No one will care. The young man in black smiled faintly. Wu Yang took a deep breath and nodded. Okay, I'll listen to you. That's right. The young man in black laughed and was very pleased. Wu Yong rubbed his head and smiled. Suddenly, a cold light flashed in his eyes, and he said, "If I have the chance, I will refine Ancestor Mu and Qin Day, those two bastards, into pills. Don't worry. Anything is possible. Let's go. We will go outside the city to look for prey now." The young man in black patted Wu Yang's shoulder and then opened a portal. The two of them walked in one after another. And this young man in black was none other than the king of the second tower, Wu Shan. First tower. Alchemy room number 10. Qin Feiyang had reached the most crucial step in refining the 9 transformation dragon blood pill. Spiritual liquid fusion. And from the beginning to the end, Fatso and Yen Wei did not say a word. Even their breathing was deliberately lowered to the lowest level, for fear of disturbing Qin Feiyang. In the alchemy furnace, under the control of Qin Feiyang's mental strength, drops of spiritual liquid continued to fuse. Everything was going smoothly. But just as all the spiritual liquid was about to be successfully fused, there was a sudden rush of knocking on the door. At that moment, the spiritual liquid in the alchemy furnace was in a mess. Boom! The next moment, there was a loud explosion in the alchemy room. Thick smoke rose and instantly covered the entire room. That bastard! Qin Feiyang's angry roar also sounded in the alchemy room. Whoosh! 2 figures rushed out of the alchemy room and stood outside the lounge. It was Fatso and Yen Wei. Both of them were also covered in dust at this moment, but the anger on their faces could not be concealed. Thud! Accompanied by a series of footsteps, Qin Feiyang also walked out of the alchemy room. The clothes on his body had become tattered and tattered. His hair was also a mess. His face was covered in black ash. He looked more miserable than Yen Wei and Fatso. With a gloomy face, he walked to the door of the alchemy room and opened the stone door. He saw Mu Qing standing at the door. Looking at Qin Feiyang's current appearance, Mu Qing was stunned. Haha, what are you doing? You actually ended up like this? This is too funny. Don't move, I want to record your current appearance and give it to your good friends to enjoy. Haha. Following closely, Mu Qing held her stomach and laughed. She was rocking back and forth and tears were coming out. Qin Feiyang's expression became more and more gloomy. Especially that gaze. It was as if he wanted to eat someone. A moment later, seeing that Qin Feiyang did not say a word, Mu Qing also felt bored. She stopped making fun of him and asked curiously, "What's wrong? You still have the nerve to ask me what's wrong?" There was no suspense. Qin Feiyang was furious. He dragged Mu Qing into the alchemy room and closed the stone door with a bang. "Beat her up. I'll take responsibility if she dies." Next. Chapter 869. What's going on? One by one, the disciples walked out and looked at Qin Feiyang's alchemy room suspiciously. What's wrong? Mo Feng also opened the stone door and walked out. He looked at the disciples around him and asked, "I don't know." Everyone shook their heads. Mo Feng, the moment these 2 people arrived, they caused a ruckus in the first tower. "I really don't understand why you had to go out of your way to pick them up." "Yeah. Isn't it good to let them go to the second tower?" 2 young men in white said unhappily. Mo Feng glanced at the 2 of them and said indifferently, "This is senior brother Pei Yi's arrangement. If you guys are not convinced, you can go look for him directly." "We are not convinced. The top alchemy rooms have always been occupied by those who are capable. What ability do those 2 have?" "That's right. If their mental strength is stronger than ours, we have nothing to say. But according to our inquiries, they only have a level 10 mental strength, while we have a level 13 mental strength. I would like to ask, why should we give them alchemy rooms 9 and 10? The 2 young men in white said angrily. They were the original owners of room number 9 and 10. Not long ago, Pei Yi asked Mo Feng to look for them and asked them to give the alchemy room to Qin Feiyang and Mo Feng. Due to Pei Yi's status in the first tower, they did not dare to disobey, but they had always been unhappy. Especially when they heard that Qin Feiyang and Mo Feng's mental strength was only at level 10, which was even worse than theirs. The resentment in their hearts grew stronger and stronger. Mo Feng sized up the 2 of them with an extremely cold expression. And the 2 young men in white were stronger than Mo Feng. 9-star war sect. But facing the current Mo Feng, they couldn't help but feel a trace of fear. Suddenly, Mo Feng's eyes flashed and said, If you guys are really unhappy, you can challenge them. Really? You won't care? The two young men in white were stunned and hurriedly asked. I don't care. But in advance, you can't use despicable methods. They have to take the initiative to accept your challenge. Mo Feng said. The two young men in white were overjoyed and couldn't wait to head to the 10th alchemy room. He thought. With their level 13 spiritual power, wouldn't it be easy for them to deal with 2 level 10 spiritual power practitioners? Dong! The two of them walked to the door and knocked hard. Inside the pill refining room, Fatso was beating up Mu Qing. As for Mu Qing, her eyes were already swollen, and her entire body was covered in injuries. She was in an extremely sorry state. However, until now, he still couldn't figure out why Qin Feiyong wanted to beat him up. Wait a moment. Hearing the knock on the door, Qin Feiyong glanced at Mu Qing expressionlessly. Then, he looked at Fatso and said something. He turned around and walked to the door, opening it slightly. The two white-clothed youths immediately entered his line of sight. What's the matter? Qin Feiyong coldly glanced at the two of them. The two of them stuck their heads out and looked behind Qin Feiyong. They wanted to see what was going on. However, Qin Feiyong was blocking the door so that they couldn't see anything. Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows and asked, Is there a problem? Yes. We want to compete with you in alchemy. If we win, you have to return the pill refining room to us. If we lose, we won't disturb you anymore. The two of them said. Compete in alchemy? Qin Feiyong froze in shock. He looked past the two of them and happened to see Mo Feng standing in the corridor opposite. Alchemy rooms number 9 and 10 used to belong to them. Senior brother Pei Yi asked them to give them to you. Now they want to challenge you to take back the alchemy rooms. Of course you can refuse. Mo Feng secretly sent a voice transmission to Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong was suddenly enlightened. There's one more thing that I think there's a need to tell you. Actually, it's just a pretense that they want to take back the alchemy rooms. Their real purpose is to target you and embarrass you. Because they're also from the Scorpion tribe. Mo Feng said again, also secretly transmitting his voice. The Scorpion tribe. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed coldly as he looked at the two young men in white. If you're still a man, don't back down and accept our challenge openly. Of course if you refuse, we can't do anything to you. However, from now on, everyone in the Pill Pagoda will know that you're a spineless sissy. The two young men in white sneered. Trying to provoke me? How childish. Qin Feiyong sneered inwardly. Without saying a word, he directly swung his hand and closed the stone door with a bang. The two young men in white froze and stood in front of the stone door, unable to recover from their shock for a long time. They thought that after being provoked by them, Qin Feiyong would definitely accept their challenge. However, they didn't expect the other party to ignore them at all. They felt that in the other party's eyes, they were like two clowns who were fooling around. Bastard, what qualifications do you have to own alchemy room number 10? If you're still a man, come out and accept our challenge. Don't be like a tortoise, hiding inside. The next moment, the two of them flew into a rage out of humiliation and cursed in the corridor like shrews. Idiot. Mo Feng shook his head and turned to enter alchemy room number 3 without looking back. In fact, he also wanted Qin Feiyong to accept the challenge. This was because he was suspecting that Qin Feiyong's spiritual power of the 10th rank might also be an illusion. And he also had a purpose for telling Qin Feiyong the true identity of the two young men in white. In his opinion, the Scorpion tribe and Qin Feiyong had a deep grudge, and the two sides would definitely be at loggerheads. And when Qin Feiyong learned that the two were from the Scorpion tribe, he would definitely accept the challenge. However, he didn't expect that Qin Feiyong would not play by the rules at all and directly refuse. The two young men in white were still cursing and swearing, looking like they would not stop until they were dead. And the other disciples were also discussing unscrupulously. Some people said that Qin Feiyong had no guts. There were also people who said that Qin Feiyong was a person who relied on Lu Xingfeng to enter the main pagoda. There were even people who said that he was a useless waste from the beginning. But Qin Feiyong couldn't be bothered to pay attention to these. Because with his current temperament, these words could no longer cause waves in his heart. In the alchemy room. Who challenged you? Fatso asked. People from the Scorpion tribe. Qin Feiyong responded indifferently and looked down at Mu Qing, who was lying on the ground. I'm telling you, if you don't make it clear today, I'm not done with you. Mu Qing gritted his teeth and stared at him. The pain from all over his body made his face distorted. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed with a cold light, and said, "Continue to beat him." Fatso smiled, rubbed his hands, and walked towards Mu Qing. Seeing this, Mu Qing shrank his neck and quickly waved his hand. Don't, let's talk, Fatso said with a sneaky smile. Then do you know you're wrong? I'm wrong. I won't dare to do it again. Mu Qing nodded repeatedly, but suddenly frowned and said angrily, That's not right, what did I do wrong? Look at the alchemy room, Fatso said. Mu Qing turned his head to look. The wall of the alchemy room was made of a transparent material, so the situation inside could be clearly seen. It was not until now that Mu Qing noticed that the alchemy room was shrouded in black smoke, and the air was filled with a burnt smell. Did the furnace explode? He was slightly stunned, and the anger in his heart also burned. He looked at Qin Feiyong and shouted, Your furnace explodes, what does it have to do with me? Why did you beat me? If it weren't for you suddenly knocking on the door, would the furnace explode? Let me tell you, this time the boss is refining a very heaven-defying elixir. Even your Mu family can't afford it. Fatso said angrily. Humph. In this world, there is nothing that my Mu family can't afford. Tell me, what kind of elixir? I'll compensate you 10 times. Mu Qing said. Fatso sneered. Then listen carefully, 9, shut up. But before Fatso said it, Qin Feiyong suddenly shouted. Fatso was stunned and immediately shut his mouth, and he felt lucky in his heart. If Qin Feiyong hadn't stopped him in time, he would have spilled the beans. Mu Qing glanced at the two, his eyes full of surprise. What kind of elixir actually made Qin Feiyong so vigilant? Go and take out the fire phoenix cauldron. The entire process went very smoothly without any accidents. More than 500 breaths passed. All the spirit liquids had finally been refined. The next step was to fuse them. Please don't let anyone knock on the door again. Fatso secretly prayed. Yen Wei's heart was also in his throat. Ancestor Mu, don't be a tortoise, get out here. Let me tell you, if you don't accept our challenge, we will look for you every now and then, so that you won't be able to cultivate in peace. What he was afraid of came. The two white-clothed youths' arrogant voices sounded from outside again. Damn it! Fatso and Yen Wei's expressions changed as they hurriedly looked at Qin Feiyong. However, they were surprised to find that Qin Feiyong was not affected. What was going on? The two of them looked at each other. Another 100 breaths passed. Whoosh! A blood-colored divine light suddenly flew out of the blazing sun cauldron. Qin Feiyong reached out and grabbed it. It worked. Fatso and Yen Wei looked at each other and hurriedly ran to Qin Feiyong's side, staring at Qin Feiyong's tightly clenched hands. Qin Feiyong looked at the two of them and slowly opened his palm. The 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir immediately entered their vision. The 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir was similar in size to other elixirs. It was blood-red in color but did not have the slightest bloody aura. It was like a blood gem, emitting a hazy luster. The rich medicinal fragrance filled every corner of the elixir refinement room. Furthermore, this elixir even carried a faint dragon's might. The most eye-catching thing was the 6 elixir patterns. They were like 6 angelic halos that surrounded the elixir in a dazzling manner. Boss, why don't I try it first and see how effective it is? Fatso's eyes lit up and he drooled. He was not joking. That was because battle masters and battle sages could consume the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir. Why are you in such a hurry? With your current cultivation speed, you don't need to rely on the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir to increase your cultivation. Let's talk about it after you break through to the Battle Saint realm. Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes at him and directly handed the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir to Yen Wei. Yen Wei took the elixir and said, Now, can you tell me what the use of this elixir is? The effect of the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir is to increase the cultivation of battle masters and battle saints. In other words, as long as you consume it, you can instantly break through to the 9-star battle saint realm. Qin Feiyong said with a faint smile. What? Yen Wei was dumbfounded. There was actually such an elixir in this world? However, whether you can successfully break through in the end depends on your luck. Because the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir with 6 elixir patterns only has a 60% chance. Qin Feiyang said again. A 60% chance is already very high. Yan Wei muttered. Let's give it a try. Try your best to succeed in one go, so as not to waste any more 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixirs. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and brought Yan Wei and Fatso into the castle. If he really succeeded, the aura of a 9-star battle saint would alarm everyone in the first tower. Therefore, breaking through inside the castle was the safest. Yan Wei looked at the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir, took a deep breath, quickly put it into his mouth, and then sat down cross-legged. It was a small elixir, but it contained an incomparably shocking amount of energy. Yan Wei felt it the most clearly. The moment the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir melted, the energy was like a torrent of beasts, crazily surging into his body. His 5 viscera, 6 bowels, 4 limbs, and hundreds of bones trembled under the impact of the energy. He felt that his body was about to explode. At the same time, he could also clearly feel that every cell in his body, every inch of his flesh and blood, was gradually transforming under the refinement of the energy. Time passed breath by breath. Yan Wei's pores slowly overflowed some black substance, emitting a foul smell. This was the impurities in his flesh and blood. His physical body was purer than before. His spirit and soul were also improving step by step. And his aura was also getting stronger. It seems that he should be able to succeed on his first try. Fatso muttered. Last time, when the double-winged snow eagle opened the 6th level of the Gate of Potential, the small creation elixir that only had 5 elixir veins was successfully opened. And now, the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir that Yan Wei took had 6 elixir veins. There was no reason for him to fail. Another dozen breaths passed. Yan Wei's aura had already climbed to the peak of an 8-star battle saint, half a step away from becoming a 9-star battle saint. But at this moment, his soaring aura suddenly slowed down. Qin Feiyang's eyelids twitched. Was this a sign of failure? How could this be? Is the energy of the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir not enough? Fatso couldn't help but feel nervous. Old Yan, do your best. Yes, don't give up. Although it's a little slow, your aura is still rising. There's still a chance. Wolf King and the other beasts also started to cheer him on. Yes, the herbs for the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir are so hard to find. We can't give up so easily. We must succeed. Yan Wei roared in his heart, his hands tightly clenched together. However, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't stop the decline of his aura. Qin Feiyang frowned and decisively asked Fatso for another set of herbs for the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir. He left the ancient castle and started to refine the elixir again. The third refinement was even smoother than the second. In less than 200 breaths, he appeared in the ancient castle again. And at this moment, Yan Wei had already stopped breaking through. The aura all over his body had also fallen to its original level. He sat listlessly on the ground, his face full of disappointment and frustration. Fatso and the others were beside him trying to persuade him in a low voice. Obviously, he had failed. Qin Feiyang walked in front of Yan Wei and laughed. This was originally a matter of luck. There's nothing to be depressed about, continue. Yan Wei raised his head and looked at the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir in Qin Feiyang's hands. His heart was filled with desire, but at the same time, he was also very nervous. He was afraid that he would fail again. Since I've already taken this step, I must continue. I can't waste it for nothing, right? Don't be too burdened. Even if I fail this time, I still have 7 sets of medicinal ingredients. I don't believe that an entire 10 sets of medicinal ingredients won't be able to help you successfully break through. Qin Feiyang said, his stubborn temper rising. Even if he had to use up all the medicinal ingredients today, he would still send Yan Wei to the 9 Stars War Sect. Hearing these words and looking at Qin Feiyang's sincere expression, Yan Wei was extremely moved. Thank you. He slowly raised his arm and grabbed the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir from Qin Feiyang's hands. At this moment, even if there were thousands of words, they would not be able to express the gratitude in his heart towards Qin Feiyang. He could only repay the young man in front of him with all his might. The disappointment and frustration in his eyes finally disappeared, replaced by a firm will. Without the slightest hesitation, he swallowed the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir. The majestic energy once again exploded in his body, like waves of anger, surging towards every part of his body. Boom! His aura once again soared. In less than 10 breaths, it once again soared to the peak of the 8 Stars War Saint realm. However, the previous situation happened again. Fatso and the others were anxious. But the most anxious one was still Yen Wei. I want to succeed. I can't let down Qin Feiyong's expectations. Break for me. He clenched his fists tightly and suddenly roared, his teeth bared and his eyes cracked. Boom. The next moment, the gradually declining aura once again roared out from his body like a volcanic eruption. At this moment, his black hair and clothes fluttered, imperceptibly emitting a shocking oppressive force. That aura was soaring in a straight line. Boom. All of a sudden, there was a dull explosion in his body. The shackles were finally broken. His aura had finally risen to that of a 9 Stars War Saint. Success. Chapter 871. An 8-star Battle Saint and a 9-star Battle Saint were on completely different levels. For example, a sacred weapon. A 9-star Battle Saint could fully recover with the power of a single person. It could be said that a 9-star Battle Saint with a sacred weapon was invincible below the Battle Emperor level. An 8-star Battle Saint could not do that. Of course, an 8-star Battle Saint could forcefully recover, but he would definitely suffer a backlash. Therefore, seeing that Yen Wei had successfully become a 9-star Battle Saint, Qin Feiyong and the rest were very happy. Because in this way, their overall strength would increase by several times. Did I really succeed? However, Yen Wei felt the surging power in his body and felt as if he was dreaming. He was very clear about his own talent. If he cultivated as usual, it would take at least a few decades or even 100 years to break through. However, he did not expect that he would be able to become a 9-star Battle Saint with just 1 elixir. This kind of breakthrough made him feel very unreal. After a while, he swallowed his saliva and looked up at Qin Feiyong and the rest, asking, "Is this really not a dream?" Qin Feiyong and the rest were stunned. The truth was right in front of them. It's not a dream. You have really become a 9-star Battle Saint now. Lu Hong smiled. It's true. Yen Wei muttered to himself. Swoosh. Suddenly, he got up and bowed deeply to Qin Feiyong, saying gratefully, I'm really grateful. We're all on the same side. Why are you so polite? Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. We're on the same side. Yen Wei murmured and could not help but feel a surge of warmth in his heart. Don't be so excited. This is just an appetizer. The real sweetness is yet to come. Fatso chuckled. What sweetness? Yen Wei looked at him suspiciously. Fatso did not answer him directly. He turned to look at Qin Feiyong and said, now that he has broken through to become a 9-star Battle Saint, he should be able to unlock the door to his potential. Qin Feiyong nodded. Door of potential. Yen Wei's eyes trembled. In this world, the most tempting thing was undoubtedly the door of potential. Even the legendary divine items could not be compared to the value of the gate of potential. But there was a problem. Yen Wei was a 9-star battle sage and needed the assistance of the Emperor's aura to open the door to his potential. The massive central divine kingdom naturally had plenty of battle emperors, but none of them were trustworthy. For a time, everyone couldn't help but frown and fall into deep thought. A moment later, Qin Feiyong's eyes lit up. I know who to ask for help. Who? Everyone looked at him. Li He. Qin Feiyong said. Fatso was slightly taken aback. If we ask him for help, wouldn't that be the same as telling him that we have a pill that can open the door to his potential? I deliberately let him know. Because this way, he will wholeheartedly cooperate with us. Qin Feiyong smiled and whispered into Fatso's ear. Good, good, good. Hearing this, Fatso nodded. Next, Qin Feiyong walked to the altar, opened a Chenkuan bag, and took out 3 potential pills. 2 potential pills, and handed them to Yen Wei. Subsequently, he brought Fatso and Yen Wei out of the castle and appeared in the alchemy room. Give me the herbs. Qin Feiyong walked to the front of the furnace and said. Fatso immediately took out his Chenkuan bag and took out 1 medicinal herb after another. They were the medicinal herbs for the small creation pill. There were 2 in total. In less than a moment, 2 small creation pills were out of the furnace. Qin Feiyong also handed the small creation pill to Yan Wei and said, "Go to the trading pavilion now. You must investigate that person's identity." The two of them nodded heavily. "Ancestor Mu, do you really want to be a bastard?" Outside, the 2 white-clothed youths were still hooting. "Are you done?" Fatso raised his eyebrows. "Do you want me to go out and get rid of them?" Yan Wei looked at Qin Feiyong, a cold light flashing in his eyes. "No need." Qin Feiyong waved his hand, his face full of disdain. "All right, boss, why weren't you disturbed by them before?" Fatso asked curiously. Qin Feiyong laughed. "As the saying goes, one learns from one's mistakes. When I was refining pills before, I was already fully mentally prepared." As long as he was mentally prepared in advance, with his calm temperament, he would not be disturbed. "Is that so?" Fatso suddenly realized and laughed. "You're still the best. Then we'll go first." Qin Feiyong nodded. Fatso waved his hand and opened a portal. He and Yan Wei walked in one after another. "Mu Jia, I'd like to see if it has anything to do with you," Qin Feiyong muttered. His eyes flashed. He put away the blazing sun cauldron and strode towards the stone door. Outside the stone door, the 2 white-clothed youths lazily leaned against the railing of the corridor, constantly cursing. "We scolded him like this and he didn't come out. His endurance is a bit too strong, isn't it? It's not that he doesn't want to come out, it's that he doesn't dare to come out. Let's go back and rest. We'll continue after we've rested." Yes, we have plenty of time anyway." The 2 looked at each other and smiled, then turned and left. However, just as the 2 of them turned around, the tightly shut stone door suddenly opened, and Qin Feiyong walked out with large strides. "Ha!" The 2 white-clothed youths were stunned. They turned around at the same time. Their faces were full of ridicule. "You finally came out. I thought you're going to hide in there for the rest of your life." The 2 of them slowly stepped forward. Their eyes were full of contempt. "Ancestor Mu, they scolded you like this and you can still endure it. I really admire you." "Exactly. If it were me, I would have accepted their challenge long ago, defeated them fair and square, and made them scram with their tails between their legs." Some of the disciples who were watching the show laughed. At first glance, these people were supporting Qin Feiyong. But in fact, they had ulterior motives. They instigated Qin Feiyong to accept the challenge and then waited for Qin Feiyong to embarrass himself. Because now, Qin Feiyong's spiritual energy was only at level 10. Almost all the disciples in the first tower knew about it. But a person with level 10 spiritual energy was occupying the 10th alchemy room. They felt very unbalanced. Looking at Qin Feiyong again. He didn't even want to look at these people who hid a knife behind their smiles. He glanced at the 2 white-clothed youths, turned around, closed the stone door, and walked directly to the 9th alchemy room. "Why are you so cowardly? Didn't your parents teach you to be a person with integrity?" The 2 of them sneered presumptuously. Qin Feiyong's body stiffened. He stopped walking and turned to look at the 2 of them. His eyes gradually turned cold. "Ayaya. Look at how scary his eyes have become. I'm scared to death." One of the white-clothed youths quickly took a few steps back and patted his chest. However, his eyes were full of ridicule. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed and said lightly, "Does the main tower allow private fights?" "Ha! Are they going to fight?" Everyone looked at each other. Someone immediately replied, Yes. It's fine as long as no one dies. If you want to fight to the death, you have to go to the fighting arena." "Won't anyone die?" Qin Feiyong muttered, looked at the 2 white-clothed youths, and said, "I don't have time to go to the fighting arena now, so I'll teach you a lesson first." The 2 of them were stunned. Haha. Following that, the 2 of them laughed, and the disdain on their faces was undisguised. Was this person stupid? A mere 8-star battle saint dared to threaten to teach them a lesson? Boom. Qin Feiyong didn't waste any more words. He raised his hand and pointed at the air. An invisible force suddenly roared out from his fingertips like a raging wave. As soon as it was pointed out, the laughter stopped abruptly. The 2 white-clothed youths' eyes widened in anger. As a 9-star battlemaster and a member of the Scorpion tribe, They could naturally judge at a glance that the destructive power of this finger was comparable to a perfect battle art. You can't underestimate it. Get out of the way. The two of them quickly dodged to the side. Boom. That invisible force exploded on the corridor in front of them, creating a deafening explosion. It's a bit strong. Those who witnessed this scene with their own eyes couldn't help but shrink their pupils, and there was some fear in them. The two white-clothed youths also broke out in cold sweat. If they hadn't dodged quickly, they would have been in big trouble. Whoosh! Suddenly, the two of them looked at Qin Feiyong, and a cold light surged in their eyes. In this tower, you're not the only one who has a perfect battle art. Wake up! The two of them roared and waved their hands at the same time. Battle Qi emerged, and a destructive wave quickly spread out in the Pill Pagoda. Clang! But at this moment, accompanied by a loud noise, a stone door suddenly opened. As soon as the stone door opened, the entire Pill Pagoda fell into a dead silence. Because this open stone door led to Alchemy Room Number 1. Everyone looked at Alchemy Room Number 1, and their faces were full of fear. Whoosh! Suddenly, a purple figure rushed out from Alchemy Room Number 1 and landed in front of the two white-clothed youths like lightning. Slap! The next moment, two loud slaps sounded in this place, and it was particularly ear-piercing. Then, the purple figure took a few steps back, stood in the middle of the corridor, and revealed his true appearance. It was a purple-clothed youth. His skin was like jade, and his black hair was like a waterfall, showing an extraordinary temperament. His two eyes were like two bright moons, and his whole body exuded a king's aura. Greetings, Senior Brother Pei Yi. At this moment, everyone who was watching from the outside lowered their proud heads and bowed to the purple-clothed young man. Pei Yi. Qin Feiyong looked at Pei Yi's sadness, and his pupils constricted slightly. This person's aura had reached the peak of the 9-star Battle Master realm. He could even faintly feel a trace of sage aura from him. It was enough to show that he was half a step into the Battle Sage realm. Then he looked at the two white-clothed youths. There was a striking palm print on their faces. The two of them were also stunned by this slap. They couldn't understand why Pei Yi slapped them. I slapped you to let you remember that without my permission, no one can cause trouble in the Pill Pagoda. Pei Yi said indifferently, with a dignified tone that couldn't be disobeyed and a domineering aura of a superior. What about him? He started it first. The two white-clothed youths pointed at Qin Feiyong and said angrily, if you hadn't been shouting here, would he have done it? You started it first, of course you have to pay the price. Chapter 872. Not bad. Qin Feiyong muttered to himself. From this incident, it could be seen that Pei Yi was a person who could distinguish between gratitude and grudges. On the other hand, the two young men in white, at this moment, they had no choice but to suffer in silence. Seeing that the two of them were indifferent, Pei Yi raised his eyebrows and hollered, what are you waiting for? Get lost. Yes. The two of them shuddered and hurriedly responded respectfully before turning around to flee. However, before leaving, the two of them glared at Qin Feiyong menacingly without hiding their threatening intentions. However, Qin Feiyong didn't take it to heart at all. If it weren't for Pei Yi's sudden appearance, the two of them would have ended up in a worse state. After the two of them left, Pei Yi's expression softened and he turned to look at Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong cupped his fists and said, thank you for helping me out, Senior Brother Pabe. It's just a small matter. Don't mention it. Pei Yi smiled and waved his hand before sending a voice transmission. However, try not to fight in the future if you can. Okay. Qin Feiyong nodded. Pei Yi was rather pleased with Qin Feiyong's attitude. He was neither arrogant nor rash and was a talent. Pei Yi asked, do you have time now? Qin Feiyong said, I happen to have something to attend to. All right then. When you're free, let's go to Long Feng House for a few drinks. I'll treat you to a meal and invite Qin Day along. Pei Yi smiled. No problem. Qin Feiyong responded with a smile. Goodbye. Pei Yi cupped his fists and turned into a stream of light, darting into Alchemy Room Number 1 at lightning speed. He is humble and amiable, and he is not arrogant when taking credit for himself. I can try befriending him. Qin Feiyong murmured, then walked to the door of Alchemy Room Number 9 and knocked hard on the stone door. At the next moment, the stone door opened automatically. Qin Feiyong strode in and saw Mu Qing recuperating in the lounge. Qin Feiyong glanced at him, turned around and closed the stone door, then walked straight into the alchemy room. On the alchemy platform, there was a bronze alchemy cauldron. It was about the same size as an ordinary alchemy cauldron. On the wall, there was a carving of a green bull. Qin Feiyong didn't even turn his head as he asked, "Is this the pill furnace that Feng Mo gave you?" "Yes." Mu Qing nodded, then frowned and said, "Are you really going to take it away? Do I look like I'm joking?" Qin Feiyong waved his hand and erased the blood contract in the furnace. Then, he dripped a drop of blood to claim ownership. A piece of information flowed into his mind. The 6th grade cauldron. Azure Ox Cauldron. Still a loss. Qin Feiyong shook his head and sighed deeply. He put the green ox cauldron back into the castle. Fuck. What's there to lose? Mu Qing was so angry that she almost exploded. For a single cauldron explosion, he had paid the price of a Tier 6 cauldron and a Tier 6 cauldron. He had even been violently beaten up. If there was a loss, it should be him who had lost. This bastard was a typical example of taking advantage of others. It was too infuriating. "You don't understand." Qin Feiyong shook his head, then turned to look at Mu Qing and said, "When do we set off?" "Now, right now, right now." Mu Qing roared. She was flustered and exasperated. Then, she got up and opened a portal. She walked in without looking back. Qin Feiyong smiled helplessly and followed her into the portal. The next moment, the two appeared in the sky above a mountain range. The mountain range stretched as far as the eye could see. Ancient trees were verdant and huge peaks towered into the sky, exuding a majestic aura. Be careful. This is the Sky Scorpion Mountain Range. It's possible to meet people from the Sky Scorpion tribe anywhere. Mu Qing scanned the mountain range. Her expression was full of vigilance. Qin Feiyong nodded. "Follow me." After Mu Qing finished speaking, she turned into a ray of light and flew down the mountain stream. Qin Feiyong followed behind Mu Qing without saying a word. Soon, the two of them landed on a short mountain. At the peak of the mountain, the vegetation was lush. The two of them stood in the middle of a patch of grass and looked ahead. Mu Qing suddenly pointed to a certain place in front of them and said in a deep voice, "Do you see that? There are two people from the Sky Scorpion tribe over there." Qin Feiyong looked over and saw a clear river a few miles away. There were two middle-aged men dressed in black flying above the river. Their eyes swept back and forth across the river, as well as both sides of the river, as if they were looking for something. However, the strength of the two of them wasn't very strong. They were only War Master. They should be looking for medicinal herbs. Should we go and get rid of them first? Mu Qing asked secretly. It's best not to go, so as to not alert the enemy. Qin Feiyong shook his head and said, "When will your second ancestor arrive?" "I'm not sure either. He only said that we should wait here." Mu Qing shrugged his shoulders. Qin Feiyong frowned and said, "My time is very precious, don't drag it out for too long. Can you stop acting cool?" Mu Qing turned his head and glanced at Qin Feiyong. Seeing Qin Feiyong's mature look, he wanted to rush up and beat him up. At the same time, Trading Pavilion. "Why are you here again?" In the lounge. Looking at Fatso and Yen Wei who appeared out of thin air, Li He, who was sitting in front of the desk, revealed a look of surprise. "Am I not welcome?" Fatso frowned. "Of course you're welcome. Quick, take a seat." Li He chuckled and quickly stood up to entertain the two. Fatso chuckled and waved his hand. "I'll sit down later. Right now, there's something I need your help with." "Why are you being so polite with me?" "Just say it," Li He said. Fatso glanced at the lounge and said, "It's best to find a more secretive place first." Li He was stunned and said in surprise, "What is it that needs to be so secretive?" "It's a very big matter." Fatso looked around vigilantly and said in a low voice. Li He immediately became interested and said, "There's a secret room under my trading pavilion that I usually use for seclusion. It's absolutely safe." Fatso thought for a moment and said, "There are too many people, forget it. Let's go out of the city and find a place where there are no traces of people." "Okay." Li He nodded and thought carefully. With a wave of his old hand, a teleportation door quickly opened. Both of you, please. Li He retreated to the side with a smile. As long as one was not an idiot, one could see that he was trying to curry favor. Fatso and Yen Wei did not stand on ceremony and took the lead to enter the teleportation door. In the sky above a majestic mountain, the three of them appeared out of thin air. This place is called Fire Phoenix Mountain Range and is hundreds of thousands of miles away from the Divine City. Very few people come here. Follow me. Li He gave a brief introduction and flew towards a huge mountain on the left. Halfway up the huge mountain, there was a cave that was about 10 feet wide. It was pitch black inside. The three of them stopped in front of the cave. Li He smiled and said, I remember many years ago, I came here to look for an herb and was accidentally injured by a saint beast. At that time, I hid in this cave to recuperate. Fatso looked around and then at the cave. He nodded in satisfaction and said, This is it. Swoosh. The three of them flew into the cave one after another. The cave was very deep. The three of them flew for more than 10 breaths before reaching the deepest part. This was a stone cave that was very spacious. Although there was no sunlight shining in and it was pitch black, it did not affect the three of them. Can you tell me now? Li He looked at the two of them. His old eyes filled with curiosity. Fatso said mysteriously, Close your eyes first. This. Li He could not help but frown. Fatso said, Don't worry, we won't plot against you. Furthermore, you're so strong, we don't have the ability to plot against you. All right. Li He nodded helplessly and closed his eyes. Hurry and take the potential elixir. Fatso hurriedly sent a message to Yen Wei. Yen Wei nodded and immediately took out 3 potential elixirs, stuffing them into his mouth. There's a medicinal fragrance? The medicinal fragrance of the potential elixir was extremely rich. After smelling it, Li He's heart was filled with shock. Wait. At the same time, Fatso's eyes widened as he grabbed Yen Wei's wrist hurriedly and said angrily in his heart, What are you doing? Weren't you the one who told me to take the potential elixir? Yen Wei looked at him suspiciously. Fatso was stunned and let go of Yen Wei's wrist, saying speechlessly, I did ask you to take it, but I didn't ask you to take it all. You can only take one at a time. Then you should have made it clear. Yen Wei was speechless as well. He kept 2 potential elixirs and threw the remaining one into his mouth. Fatso said, Sit down. Yen Wei sat cross-legged on the ground as he was told. Fatso looked at Li He and said with a smile, That's enough. Li He opened his eyes, looked at Yen Wei who was sitting on the ground, and asked doubtfully, What are you doing now? Don't ask anything. Just do as Fat Lord says. I promise to give you a big surprise later. Now release your Emperor's might and imprison him. But be careful, don't kill him. Fatso pointed to Yen Wei and said, Release the Emperor's might? Li He became more and more confused. At this moment, Yen Wei's body began to tremble, and a look of pain crawled onto his face. Obviously, the potential elixir's effect had taken effect. Quick! Seeing this, Fatso hurriedly urged Li He. Li He quivered, and the Emperor's might roared out, instantly enveloping Yen Wei. Roar! Just as he was being enveloped by the Emperor's might, Yen Wei suddenly raised his head and let out a beast-like roar, hysterical. His eyes were also completely red. What's going on? Li He was bewildered. Fatso ignored him and stared at Yen Wei, saying in a deep voice, I've also tasted this feeling before, it's very painful, living is worse than death. Even though your cultivation is stronger than ours, I'm afraid it's unbearable, but you have to persevere, otherwise you will explode and die. Explode and die. Li He's gaze trembled. What were these two doing? Yen Wei could not help but tremble both physically and mentally. He never thought that opening the gate of potential would be so dangerous. He did not dare to let his guard down, gritting his teeth and persevering. After a few breaths, all the pores on his body began to spurt blood, and in an instant, he was covered in blood. That heart-wrenching pain caused his face to contort and distort. After a while, Yen Wei suddenly let out a long howl. The loud howl turned into an invisible sound wave that rushed out of the cave, alarming all the ferocious beasts in the nearby mountains. They soared into the air one after another, looking at the giant peak where Fatso and the other two were, their fierce eyes filled with bewilderment. At the same time, Yen Wei's body also exploded with a dull bang, and the position of his heart also blossomed with a bright light. Good, good, good. Successfully opened the first level. Fatso laughed and hurriedly looked at Li He, saying, quickly retract the Emperor's might. With a thought from Li He, the terrifying Emperor's might instantly disappeared. Yan Wei also could not wait to take off his clothes and wipe off the blood on his chest. Immediately, a white potential imprint was exposed to Li He's line of sight. This is... Li He sized up the imprint, his old eyes full of suspicion. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something, and his old body suddenly trembled, saying, could it be? That's right, it's the potential imprint. Fatso chuckled. Li He's face went blank as he stared at Yan Wei in bewilderment, saying, how did you do it? Yan Wei was still immersed in joy, and instinctively replied, medicinal pill. Boom. The moment these words came out, Li He was like a bolt from the blue on the spot, his mind rumbling. Medicinal pills to open the door of potential. What kind of joke was this? How was this possible? But suddenly, he thought of the medicinal fragrance he smelled earlier. He swallowed his saliva with difficulty, looked at Fatso and asked, is it really a medicinal pill? Of course. Fatso nodded. This. Li He was completely stunned. After being in the transaction pavilion for so many years, what kind of medicinal pill had he not seen? But he had never heard of a medicinal pill that could open the door of potential in the world. This was completely beyond his imagination. What kind of background did this group of people have, to actually hide so many shocking medicinal pills? Fatso laughed. How is it? Is this a surprise? Yes, 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 definitely. Li He nodded repeatedly, looking at Fatso and Su Zimo with longing in his eyes. If he could get his hands on such a medicinal pill, coupled with a 9-melody yellow dragon pill, the position of Deputy Pavilion Master of the Transaction Pavilion would definitely belong to him. My boss said that as long as we have a good cooperation, you'll definitely benefit a lot. Fatso chuckled. Our cooperation has to be good. If there's anything in the future, feel free to tell me. As long as I can do it, I'll definitely do it. Li He patted his chest and vowed solemnly, as though he was dozens of years younger, looking hale and hearty. Fatso smiled smugly and looked at Yan Wei. Hurry and heal your injuries. We'll continue to open the second level later. All right. Yan Wei immediately took out a healing elixir and threw it into his mouth, closing his eyes to heal his injuries. What? It can be opened continuously? Li He was bewildered. Of course. Fatso nodded. Chapter 873. Fire Phoenix Mountain Range. With the help of Li He, Yan Wei continued to open the door of potential. Whether it was talent or body, they were all undergoing earth-shaking changes. At the same time, Scorpio Mountain Range. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing stood side by side at the peak of the short mountain, looking around vigilantly. Swish! Suddenly, an old figure silently appeared behind them. It was an old woman, wearing a pitch-black robe, skinny and with a trace of fierceness on her wrinkled face. It was the previous housekeeper of the Mu family, Mu Li. Greetings, young master. After the black-robed old woman appeared, she glanced at the mountain range in front of her and bowed to Mu Qing. You're here. Mu Qing turned and looked at the black-robed old woman with a smile. The black-robed old woman nodded. Qin Feiyang also slowly turned around. The moment their eyes met, there was an invisible collision that caused sparks to fly. Then, Qin Feiyang glanced behind the black-robed old woman and frowned. You came alone? Although the strength of the Scorpio tribe is not as good as my Mu family, it is still a super tribe. With this old woman's strength, I can't get rid of them. So, of course, it's impossible for this old woman to come alone. The black-robed old woman said expressionlessly, as if she didn't like Qin Feiyang. What about the others? Qin Feiyang asked. As for the black-robed old woman's attitude, he directly ignored it. What's the hurry? The black-robed old woman glanced at him indifferently, then at the mountain range in front of her, and said, Wait for me here. After saying that, the black-robed old woman turned into a stream of light and flew away like lightning. Above the river, the two middle-aged men of the Scorpio tribe were still there. Whoosh! Almost in the blink of an eye, the black-robed old woman descended above the two men. With a wave of her old hand, she directly erased the two men. Everything happened in an instant, and the two men didn't even have time to call for help. Then, the black-robed old woman cut through the sky again and rushed in another direction. Soon, she had returned, and her entire body was filled with a shocking murderous aura. The people of the scorpion tribe nearby have all been killed by this old one. This old one will inform the second ancestor. After saying that, the black-robed old woman took out an image crystal. The next moment, a purple-clothed old man appeared. It's the Mu family's second ancestor. The black-robed old woman bowed and said, "Greetings, second ancestor. The obstacles have been cleared." "Well done." Mu Jia's second ancestor nodded, and the shadow dissipated. In less than 3 breaths, Mu Jia's second grandmaster appeared. He stood above the heads of Qin Feiyong and the other two, gazing into the depths of the mountain range, his old eyes flashing with a cold light. Swish! After the Mu clan's second forefather, more and more silhouettes began to materialize in the void. There were a total of 30 people, and they were all well-built men. They were also wearing the same black robes, and the aura they exuded was unfathomable. "Greetings, young master." These 30 well-built men, after bowing to Mu Qing, looked at Qin Feiyong. Mu Qing glanced at Qin Feiyong and chuckled. "Did you see that? Each of them has the cultivation of a war emperor." Qin Feiyong's pupils contracted. 30 war emperors were sent out at once. This Mu clan's foundation was too terrifying. "Are you scared? Let me tell you, this is only the tip of the iceberg of my Mu clan," Mu Qing said proudly. "What do you want to say?" Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows. "What I want to say is, before going against my Mu clan in the future, it's better to weigh yourself first." Mu Qing laughed secretly. "Weigh?" The corner of Qin Feiyong's mouth lifted, and a trace of ridicule could not be removed. The Mu clan's foundation indeed made him panic, but he had never put Mu Qing in his eyes. "We can act now." At this time, the Mu clan's second forefather retracted his gaze and looked at the 30 well-built men. "You guys spread out and surround the scorpion tribe. Don't let even a fly escape." "Yes." The 30 burly men responded respectfully, then turned into streaks of light and flew off in different directions. The Mu clan's second forefather looked at the black-robed old woman and said, "You go to the scorpion tribe's medicine field." "Okay." The black-robed old woman nodded and rushed to the east of the mountain range. "Medicine field?" Qin Feiyong was stunned and secretly asked Mu Qing, "The scorpion tribe has a medicine field?" "Of course. Every tribe in the Central Divine Kingdom has its own medicine field. Among them, the top 10 tribes have the largest medicine fields and the most varieties. And most of them are 10,000-year-old herbs," Mu Qing said. After hearing this, Qin Feiyong immediately calculated in his heart. Mu Qing looked at him and suddenly a trace of vigilance crept up on her face, asking, "What do you want?" "Nothing." Qin Feiyong shook his head. "One must know how to be content. Don't think about things you shouldn't think about." The Mu clan's second forefather also glanced at Qin Feiyong and said faintly with a clear threat in his tone. Then, he rolled up Qin Feiyong and flew straight to the depths of the Scorpion Mountain range. "Content. If I don't get some benefits, wouldn't this trip be in vain?" Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed. Suddenly, he flickered and disappeared without a trace. "Ha!" The Mu clan's second forefather suddenly braked and stopped in the void. At the same time, Mu Qing also frowned and glanced at the void, saying in a deep voice, "Qin Feiyong, I'll kindly advise you not to think too much." Whoosh! Qin Feiyong appeared in the void below and looked up at the two with a smile. "I can't help much even if I go, so it's better to walk around." "Walk around? Don't treat us as fools. Do you think we don't know that you want to go to the medicine field too?" Mu Qing sneered. "You guessed it. I really want to praise you." Qin Feiyong laughed. "Thank you, but no need. But I will never let you touch the medicine field," Mu Qing said very seriously. "Then why do you want me to come? To watch you kill people? Not interested. If you don't let me go to the medicine field, then I'll go back to the main tower. But I'm not a tight-lipped person. If I accidentally let it slip, don't blame me." Qin Feiyong grinned, revealing a mouthful of white teeth. Mu Qing's face sank. "Nah. The arrow on the bow has to be released. If Qin Feiyong really went back to spread the news, it may be a disaster for the Mu clan." The Mu clan's second forefather's eyes flashed and nodded. Okay, as you wish, go. Great ancestor, you can't. Mu Qing quickly turned his head and anxiously looked at the second forefather. It doesn't matter. Isn't it just some herbs? It doesn't matter if you give it to him. The Mu clan's second forefather waved his hand. Then thank you very much. Qin Feiyong smiled brightly and used the phantom steps, rushing towards the east. Looking at Qin Feiyong's back, Mu Qing was extremely angry. Then he looked at the Mu clan's second forefather and frowned. Great ancestor, you can't let him do as he pleases, otherwise he will definitely take advantage of you. Don't worry. It won't be that easy for him to get the herbs. The Mu clan's second forefather sneered and took out the image crystal. Bas! The next moment, the black-robed old woman's shadow emerged. The Mu clan's second forefather said, Qin Feiyong is going, you watch if necessary, give him a little pain. In short, don't let him get a single herb. Mu Qing added. Understood. The black-robed old woman nodded, and then the shadow dissipated in an instant. Whoosh! The Mu clan's second forefather also took Mu Qing and continued to rush forward. Back to Qin Feiyong. After flying for a distance, he stopped over a dense forest and glanced around, his brows tightly knitted together. He ignored a problem. He didn't know the exact location of the herb field. And the black-robed old woman's speed was many times faster than his. She had long disappeared. Suddenly, his eyes lit up, and he dragged Wolf King out of the castle, urging, quickly track the black-robed old woman's scent. The Wolf King also clearly heard the conversation between Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing from the castle. So, without Qin Feiyong's explanation, it also knew what to do. At that moment, it used its strength to flick its nose and said, Follow me. Whoosh! One man and one wolf rushed through the air, chasing into a large mountain. Within a radius of dozens of breaths, there were towering and majestic giant peaks. The lowest was more than 1,000 feet. The mountain stream was surrounded by clouds and mist, hazy and full of a mysterious aura. Wolf King's nose twitched, his eyes flashing, and said, I can already smell the medicinal fragrance. Qin Feiyong couldn't help but look forward to it. Wolf King suddenly turned his head, looked at Qin Feiyong, and asked, Don't you want to change your appearance? Qin Feiyong was stunned, nodded and said, Yes, I have to change it. If he met the people of the Scorpion tribe, and if the Mu clan didn't eliminate the root of the problem, then wouldn't his current identity be exposed? He thought about it and simply took a facial restoration pill to restore his true appearance. Because Wolf King was beside him, no matter what he looked like, the other party would be able to recognize him. Therefore, it was better to directly show his true appearance. After a dozen breaths, the clouds in front of them gradually dispersed, and a large canyon entered the sight of a man and a wolf. Holy shit! Wolf King was stunned on the spot. The canyon was more than a dozen miles wide, but there was nothing on the ground, not even a blade of grass. It was all medicinal herbs, densely packed in a large area. This is too much. Qin Feiyong was also dumbfounded by what he saw. Those stalks of medicinal herbs swayed in the wind, gushing with multicolored light that dyed the entire canyon in a myriad of colors. It was incomparably gorgeous. Ha! But suddenly, Qin Feiyong's eyes narrowed, staring at the center of the canyon. There was a small old wooden building, and on the terrace of the small wooden building, a white figure could be faintly seen. Someone is guarding it? A man and a wolf's heart trembled. They quickly landed below the mountain stream and quietly sneaked into the canyon. What about the old witch? Didn't she come first? The Wolf King asked in a low voice, his eyes full of suspicion. She may be hiding somewhere, Qin Feiyong said. If that's the case, it means that the old witch is not sure to kill the person guarding the herbal field, Wolf King said. Qin Feiyong nodded. This old woman is not sure. Before her voice faded, a cold voice suddenly sounded behind the man and the wolf. We've been discovered. Qin Feiyong and Wolf King looked at each other, stopped and turned their head. Sure enough, it was the black-robed old woman. The black-robed old woman glanced at the man and the wolf, sneered. Your ambition is not small. You want to take the herbal field. Ha! Chapter 874. So what if he leaked the information? Don't think that you're the only smart person in this world. The black-robed old woman smiled disdainfully. I really didn't realize that you're that smart. Qin Feiyang laughed. The black-robed old woman's eyes darkened slightly. What? You want to fight? Then you'd better think about it. Putting aside our cooperation, as long as you make a move, the person guarding the herb field will immediately sense your aura. At that time, not to mention the herbs, you might not even be able to keep your life. Qin Feiyang laughed, not nervous at all. Are you threatening me? The black-robed old woman's eyes flashed coldly. No, no, no. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and said, I'm not threatening you. I'm just giving you a piece of advice. Then I'll also give you a piece of advice. You'd better leave immediately, or you'll have to bear the consequences. The black-robed old woman said. What consequences? Don't scare me. I'm a very timid person. Qin Feiyang took a few steps back, his hands in front of his chest, looking at the black-robed old woman warily, but his face was full of ridicule. Little bastard. Let me tell you, as long as I'm here, you won't get a single herb. The black-robed old woman gritted her teeth, her hands tightly clenched together. At this moment, she couldn't wait to rush up and kill Qin Feiyang. That's not necessarily true. Qin Feiyang pursed his lips and smiled, saying, I don't want to talk nonsense with you. The herbs here, we'll each take half. Why? The black-robed old woman was so angry that she laughed. She really had an impulse to hit someone. What do you think? Qin Feiyang laughed. I really don't see how you can threaten me. The black-robed old woman sneered. In her view, Qin Feiyang was just bluffing. You're not just an ordinary idiot. Take a guess. What do you think will happen if I yell now? Qin Feiyang laughed. The black-robed old woman frowned. Suddenly, she seemed to have thought of something and her body stiffened. If that was the case, the people guarding the herb field would have noticed it immediately. Qin Feiyang said, Do you think I have the right to threaten you now? You, the black-robed old woman gnashed her teeth. Shoo! Don't be angry. If you accidentally expose your aura, you'll be in big trouble. Qin Feiyang made a shushing gesture and laughed in a low voice. The black-robed old woman's pupils constricted as she swept her gaze over Qin Feiyang and Wolf King. A moment later. In the end, she compromised and nodded. All right, we'll split it in half. That's right. We could have discussed this peacefully. Why did you have to make things so awkward? Qin Feiyang smiled. Humph. The black-robed old woman snorted and turned around, heading towards the canyon. Qin Feiyang and Wolf King looked at each other and quickly chased after him. Very quickly. The two men and the wolf arrived at the bottom of the canyon and climbed up to the peak on the left. They lay in the grass and restrained their aura as they looked at the small wooden building in the middle of the canyon. From here, they could clearly see the true appearance of the person on the balcony. It was an old man who was over 70 years old. His hair was white and his body was stooped. However, his aura was like a vast ocean, unfathomable. It's him. The black-robed old woman frowned. Who? Qin Feiyang and Wolf King looked at her in surprise. The great elder of the Scorpion tribe. He has the cultivation of a 5-star war emperor. I'm not his opponent. You have to think of a way to lure him away. The black-robed old woman said in a deep voice. Qin Feiyang was startled and said with a flattering smile. Me lure him away? Are you kidding me? The black-robed old woman frowned. You have the castle to hide in, what are you afraid of? I'm not afraid of him, but I'm afraid of you. Do you think I don't know what you're thinking? When I lure him away, you'll take the opportunity to collect the herbs in the medicine field. At that time, I won't be able to get a single one. Qin Feiyang said. The black-robed old woman was a little angry. How could this person be so shrewd? She asked. Then what do you think we should do? Don't you already have an idea in your heart? Why are you still asking me? Qin Feiyang said. Didn't you say I'm stupid? What idea can I have? The black-robed old woman's eyes flashed and said lightly. Don't pretend. You haven't made a move yet. Isn't it because you're waiting for your second ancestor to make a move? Qin Feiyang sneered. The black-robed old woman raised her eyebrows and immediately fell silent. Little Qin Zi, what do you mean by waiting for their second ancestor to make a move? Wolf King looked suspiciously at the black-robed old woman and secretly asked. It means that as long as the second ancestor of the Mu family makes a move, the great elder of the heavenly clan will definitely leave the medicine field and go to the tribe to support. And when this person leaves, these herbs will be ours, right? Qin Feiyong secretly laughed. So that's how it is. Wolf King murmured, thought for a moment, and said, It doesn't seem right. What's wrong? Qin Feiyong asked. Now this old witch doesn't dare to do anything to us because of the great elder. But if he leaves, this old witch won't have any worries, right? At that time, she will seriously injure us, or use her pressure to imprison us. Then we can only watch her loot these herbs, right? Wolf King said. Not bad, you know how to think about problems. Qin Feiyong laughed. Wolf King said disdainfully, TSK, I just don't like to use my brain. Do you really think I'm an idiot? Good, you're smart, I underestimated you. I also thought about your problem. And this old witch will definitely do as you said. So, I have already made a plan. Qin Feiyong said. What plan? Wolf King was curious. You'll know later. Qin Feiyong smiled mysteriously. He can't compare to the Mu family's strength, but in terms of brains, he is confident that he can play around with them. The conversation between the man and the wolf was carried out in secret, so the black-robed old woman didn't know. At this moment, she was also calculating in her heart. In short, both of them have their own ulterior motives. At the same time, in the center of the Sky Scorpion Mountain, there is a huge city. Tall buildings, majestic and tall, exuding an ancient aura. In front of the city, there is a plain. On the plain, there is a layer of green grass. There are no towering ancient trees, nor birds and beasts, but there is a group of young people practicing martial arts seriously. There are also a few old people teaching them. On one side, there is an ancient stone tablet, engraved with 4 bold words. Sky Scorpion Tribe. On the top of the stone tablet, there is a sky scorpion totem carved, vivid and lifelike. You can even feel an astonishing murderous aura from the totem. That's right. This is the base camp of the Sky Scorpion tribe. Whoosh! Suddenly, there is a sound of breaking air in the distance. One of the slightly older old men frowned slightly, apparently already aware of it, and looked up. In the distance there are 2 figures breaking through the air like lightning. Who is it? The other old men also noticed the 2 figures, and a trace of surprise crept into their old eyes. Whoosh! The 2 figures are very fast, almost in the blink of an eye. They arrived in the sky above the plain. After revealing their true appearance, the eyes of the old men on the plain suddenly trembled. Because these 2 people are the Mu family's second ancestor and Mu Qing. And Mu Qing has also restored her true appearance. The older old man quickly retracted his gaze, looked at the young men who are practicing martial arts, and whispered, Children, go back quickly. The group of young men suspiciously looked at Mu Qing, and then rushed towards the city like a swarm of bees. When the group of young men entered the city, the older old man breathed a sigh of relief, raised his head to look at the Mu family's second ancestor, and cupped his hands. Greetings to the Lord. May I know why the Lord has come to our Sky Scorpion tribe? The other old men also bowed one after another. Their expressions were extremely respectful, and there was a trace of fear that can't be dispersed. However, what responded to them was the arrival of death. The Mu family's second ancestor waved his hand, and a terrifying pressure emerged, roaring towards them like a torrent. Before they could figure out the situation, they were smashed by the pressure, and not even their bones were left. What's the situation? This move is undoubtedly like poking a hornet's nest. One figure after another, like meteors, constantly swept out of the city. Some stood on the city wall. Some stood in the sky above the city. But when they saw the Mu family's second ancestor, everyone's face crawled with panic. The Mu family's second ancestor glanced at those people and shouted, Guoqingqing, get out here. His voice was like a bell, resounding in all directions. Whoosh! Not long after, 2 figures hurried over. It was the Sky Scorpion tribe's chief and high priest. Second ancestor. When the 2 saw the Mu family's second ancestor, their eyes slightly trembled, and quickly flew to the front of the Mu family's second ancestor, bowing, Greetings to the Lord. Do you want me to do it myself, or do you want to do it yourself? The Mu family's second ancestor said expressionlessly. Guoqingqing and the high priest looked at each other, their eyes full of surprise. Guoqingqing suspiciously asked, May I ask the Lord, what is the meaning of this? The Mu family's second ancestor did not answer, but Mu Qing sneered, Do you know who I am? Guo and the high priest looked at Mu Qing. Mu Qing said, I am the Qin Dai you want to kill, and my other identity is the young lord of the Mu family. What? The two trembled physically and mentally. The people in the city also immediately became restless. Qin Dai is actually the young lord of the Mu family? Mu Qing smiled playfully, looked at the high priest of the Sky Scorpion tribe, and said, Do you remember what I said to you in the Rolling Clouds mountain range? The high priest's body suddenly trembled, and he quickly knelt in the void, saying, I didn't know Qin Dai was you, I was wrong, I won't dare to do it again, please be magnanimous, spare my life. Spare you? Ha ha. In the trading pavilion, you failed to kill, and set up a trap, letting Elder Wu trick us into going to the Rolling Clouds mountain range. At that time, you and Guoming destroyed my Qi Si, broke my heart, and almost killed me. For someone who wanted to kill me, I let him go. Do you think I will be so merciful? Mu Qing said playfully. I'm sorry. The high priest repeatedly kowtowed and apologized. That arrogant attitude of the past had vanished without a trace. At this moment, there was nothing in his heart, only regret. Guo Chengqing was the same. He never thought that Qin Dai was the young lord of the Mu family. The Mu family was mysterious and powerful, even the Pill Pagoda was quite afraid, let alone the Sky Scorpion tribe. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.